need to figure out. How to get these things uploaded. They're gonna let me change the name. Did the name change on YouTube just now? Let me see something. Yep. Okay. All right. So StreamYard is working with me today. First one in the building. Shout out to Z. All right, we're doing a study. We're just doing a study session. We back on the prayer. We're back on the prayer. We're doing a study session. We're trying to finish up. We're trying to finish up where we left off yesterday. Right? We're trying to finish up where we left off yesterday. Appreciate it. Man, listen. Walking the dog this morning. Walking the dog this morning. Epic. It was like this much snow outside. It was like this much snow outside. It's Michigan. Yeah, it's just Michigan. It's just this much. Whatever this much is, give or take, just that much. Oh wow, what we had in snow, you had in rain. That's nasty work. That's nasty work. I ain't gonna lie. Michigan, having been a bunch of different places, the New York weather versus the Michigan, I prefer the Michigan, because the Michigan is like, it be clean snow. For whatever reason, the snow be clean. New York is so much of a grind. The snow be mad slushy and dirty, and so the Michigan, you know what I'm saying, you just shovel it. The street cleaners come, they do their thing, salt it down, get it out the way. It's not as bad as it was in New York. Yeah, it's not as bad as it was in New York. Even though it'd be way colder than New York. The tall buildings and all that help in New York. So it's a balance, it's give or take. Here, you don't really have tall buildings. It's mostly houses out here in Michigan. So the wind just be merciless. Like, shoe be on you. Shoe be on you. Okay. Somebody's showing out. Somebody's showing out. Somebody's showing out with the first edition. What books is those? First edition, 1891, and fourth edition. What books is those that you flexing in your icon? Always good to see. All right, so we just getting ready to pick up where we left off with the prayer. We're gonna try to do our thing to well, I want y'all to help me so I can help y'all. Help me, help y'all. Help me, help y'all. Help me, help y'all. Right? So we want to get this thing down pat. And we want to branch it out. We want to branch it out. I don't know if somebody was trolling last night. I don't know if they was trolling last night or not. But somebody asked me, like, the herbs and the exercise and the health. What does the herbs and the exercise and the health have to do with the prayer? And I said, wow, I must be doing a really bad job. I must be doing a bad job communicating. Let's go. Let's go. We here. Right? Join the Patreon. Since my back end person left me stranded, sometimes things happen for a reason. God bless you. And, you know, sometimes you don't know how it goes, but I've been able to be more, you know, over the last couple of weeks. Patreon has been good in terms of communication. So anybody that wants to, you know, if you're in the Patreon, that's where we talking back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So if you got questions or whatever, consultations, you want to go further, you know, with the information than we can on the YouTube, Patreon is the place, right? But I wanted to pick up where we left off yesterday. And then I also want to answer this question, right, that came through last night. So I don't know if they was trolling or what. You know, sometimes people be friendly trolling, you know what I'm saying? But the question was, yeah, that's listen, I don't know, but here's the thing. I always take it as, you know, it could be, you know, it could be me not doing a good job at teaching. I can always do better. But then also, you got to remember, Jay, we don't know when everybody's tuning in. You know, I was talking with one of the brothers in Patreon yesterday, a different brother, and he was like, yeah, I just started following you maybe a couple of months because I seen something on Instagram, right? I seen something on Instagram and I jumped on your page or whatever, and woo, here we are. So there's people that are tuning in and tuning out. Like, we got people that may follow us for a few years, whatever may happen. They may, you know, life may catch up with them. And then somebody else might just happen to see something somewhere. And, you know, so people are at different stages of tuning in. And depending on how they get introduced, you know what I'm saying? It determines what their questions might be. You know what I'm saying? So I just got to take it all with a grain of salt and try to reach, you know, you got to try to reach the people one way or another. Right. So I think it's, you know, it's a, I'm not going to say it's a bad question. You know what I'm saying? But it's a question that needs to be answered. It's a question that needs to be answered because we are in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? So what I would do is, hopefully the brother sees the response, right? This is a newer book, right? This is a newer book. This is the book that's kind of like, I don't really know what I was doing in this book. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what I was doing. It turned out to be, this is probably going to be one of the books I'm remembered for all my life. This turned out to be one of the better books, in my opinion. I have favorites. And this book is easy top 5. Easy top 5 because I was so, it's a lot inside this book, right? There's a lot inside this book. Not just the fact that this is the book where we literally found the cause, the trigger, the cure for heart disease, right? This is that book, in case you can't see it. The end of heart disease mathematically. See that? Speak into existence, the end of heart disease mathematically, right? But then also my little brother had passed, so this book is dedicated to him, right? This book is dedicated to him, so it goes beyond ending heart disease. It goes into addiction. It goes into mental illness, right? So this book, it covers a lot of different like it's really in depth. And then we got a lot of science in this book. I don't know where I was on another planet writing this book. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I had a I feel like I had an experience with this book. Because I almost don't remember the stuff that's in this book. Like I'm looking back and I got like pictures of me sucking my thumb, laying on the bed, sleep with my mom's. Like I don't even know what I was doing putting all this in. I don't know what I was. I was emotional. You know what I'm saying? But this right here, right? This right here will answer the question. And then we have to go back to the basics. Melanin versus Diabetes, Book 2. Melanin versus Diabetes, Book 2. Right? So, I'm not going to just flash the books and leave you like that, right? Because brother might watch, or if he's not watching now, because nobody's watching right now, we got a few people, but probably on the replay. My content be sporadic and then it be long. So it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like I might not make a video for a couple of days, then I make a 4-hour video. So people be, and then I'll get into a space where we might do, we might go crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so people be a little caught off guard with the release of the content. So yeah, hopefully brother sees the video. But I think it's a interesting question. After I thought about it, I was like, is brother trolling? Then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? People may not know. They may not understand the intersection, right? So in these two books, and it's just crazy, like in case you can't tell people at home, this is a skull. This is a skull on the cover of the book, right? It's a skull on the cover of the book. And the main subject matter of this book, I was still experimenting and kind of learning how to make books through Amazon, right? Which I'm still learning. I'm still getting dinged by the publishers and the software and kicking me out and slapping me around and sending me not nasty messages, but I know a lot less about making the cover. But what I wanted to communicate with the cover was literally the answer to that very question, like the intersection between mental health and physical health, right? And so realistically, in book 1, Melanin versus Diabetes, book 1, the article that started everything, right? The article that got the mayor and the city council members to cut a ribbon for us and the whole 9 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like, we did so much in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe. We did so much in the last years that I haven't really taken stock. But even that initial article was talking about the intersection between mental health and physical health, right? So I know that people, sometimes I guess what I speak to is what's on people's minds, because, a lot of people might just be tuning in and out. Not everybody's consistent like you, Jay. I appreciate you. God bless you. Z, Osborne, you know what I'm saying? Thanos, Lauren. Well, pretty much everybody that's watching right now is if you up early at the crack of dawn watching this, yeah, because I'm looking at the chat, it's pretty much all familiar folks, right? That is a certified super fact, right? It is not possible for me to do enough YouTube videos to really cover what's in the books. That is the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing, no matter what. Respectfully, we'll do a 4-hour video and people would be like, oh, that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, that was, where you getting, like, how you come up, that was mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be like, bro, I just went through like the first 4 or 5 pages of a book. The book got 300 pages in there. And then by the time we go live again, I'm like, all right, so yeah, here's a new book. So we gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll drop a book, we'll cover 5 or 10 pages out of a 300-page book. And then by the time we go live again, we at the next book. Now, some things for the people that really follow the books, right? There are certain things in the books that you guys have been able to watch develop, right? Like the anatomy portion of the book. You can see the anatomy portion of the book develop, right? I think the first book, what's the first book where we actually started to chronicle the anatomy? Because I'm learning too as I'm teaching, right? So there's a book. That might be interesting to know. Which book exactly was that? Now I'm curious. What's the first book where we actually have The anatomy. I wonder if that's... No, it can't be this book. No, because in this book, I put it in there like 2 or 3 times, but this is one of the first books. We started to going through breaking down, like making the anatomy. So if not this, no, it's not in here at all. No, I know it ain't in here. I know this book like the back of my hand. This is one of them ones. If I got stuck on the island, this has to go. That's one of them ones. I think maybe. Yo, remember this? Look at book number 1. Look how small and thin book number 1 is. Yo, look at book number 1. Book number 1 is mad flimsy. But I ain't gonna hold you. Information-wise, I will put this book up against any one of these books. Like, this is still the heavyweight champion. In fact, we probably need to go into this book a bit today. Yeah. The preface. I made a couple phone calls to find a friend to hold me accountable for 100 daily push-ups. And what I ended up with was hundreds, if not thousands of people doing 100 push-ups a day. Crazy. But this, no. So wait, I want to find this book. I want to find the exact book because I think things shifted with that. I think things changed when we did that. Okay, so it's not in this book. That's interesting. That's interesting. I thought it would be in this book. It's definitely in the body language book. Yeah. Yeah, it might be. It literally might be the electrician manual, but it was something before the electrician manual. It might be this. The melanin book. Yeah, I believe it might be the melanin book. Yeah, I think it was this. I think it was this book. What time is it? Is it almost 9 o'clock? At 9 o'clock, I gotta do my thing at 9 o'clock. So if y'all are live with me at 9, then y'all need to jump up and join me in prayer at 9 o'clock. Hold on. It's not in this book. What? That's kind of crazy. So then it has to be, yeah, this is it. The Melanin book is the very first book. I'm almost certain this is the first book because it was still baby. And it was written as a chapter instead of more like an appendix. Yeah. So this is the first book where we started to put together the anatomy. That's very funny how things cycle back around. Right. So why that's important is because I realized, look at that. And we start the book off with Sheikh Anta Diop. We start the book off with Sheikh Anta Diop. You know what I'm saying? I said, Diop was the GOAT of his time. Ross Aiken Gortner's research was ignored or covered up. My thoughts on him anyway. The Egyptians, though healthy, large and robust, were clumsy in their forms and coarse in their features. Like other African tribes, they were woolly-haired, flat-nosed, and thick-lipped, and if not absolutely black, were very near it in color. Crazy. Yeah. But this is the Melanin book. This is the first book where I realized that we needed a I was going in. I be getting angry going in on folks. But I realized that we needed a new view, like a total once over of the anatomy. So I started the project in this book, and I want to say maybe 20 books later, I'm still developing that. So we're still adding to the anatomy, right? We're still adding to the anatomy, right? But it's important even to get, going back to the brother's question. I'm gonna write that down, mental note to myself. That makes this book even more of a classic. The fact that this is the first book. Well, that does kind of make sense because it's the electrician manual, #1, right? So, but it's the first book where we put the anatomy in. That's a vibe, right? And I know some people that's listening, they're like, EnQi, there's literally 10 million books of anatomy. No. We are the first people to document the body's electrical framework, right? So there's a zillion different books out there on anatomy, but there are no books outside of what we have authored on the body as electrical components. Every single part of the body as electrical components. So, yeah, so here's the thing. Going back to the question, right? And feel free, y'all, load up Patreon with as much stuff. Like, don't think anything is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Drop it in there. You know what I'm saying? The only question that's a bad question is the question you don't ask, right? So there are things that we have to extrapolate from truths, from facts, from things that we find out. We've gotten into a space where our attention spans are very short. And so we don't really delve into understanding. We got excited when Dr. Sabi said the body was electric. Robert Becker said the body was electric. We got excited. We didn't realize that starting with the Bible, right? Wow. A good question could really launch a conversation. A good question could really launch a conversation. And here's what I mean by that, right? Here's what I mean by that. Because we don't realize that, right? Okay. We got Kemet up here, right? Up here, science is religion. This is where we taking it back to, right? This is where we taking it back to, right? But post Kemet, you slowly have a breakdown, right? So you still have the same thing in Greece, but by the time Rome gets on, so there was a lot of blood spilled in the Roman era. Rome was the first people doing the ethnic cleansing, like killing up a lot of black folks, and they was going crazy, right? I mean, Alexander the Great did his thing, but Alexander the Great, he was conquering, right? He was conquering. So he was satisfied if he took over a place and everybody fell in line. He was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, I'm the ruler, everybody. Okay, cool. All right. Do y'all as you were. You know what I'm saying? He was kind of like Rome, though, kind of stepped into a lot of what Greece had already established, and it wasn't enough for them to just control a place. They kind of instituted like a lot of, it got crazy with Rome, right? So especially Justinian and Nero, right in that time period, Caligula time period, it got crazy, right? So science and religion start to get separated in that pocket, right? Because what happens is, I think it's Justinian the Second. Justinian the Second, he institutes a law where you could be put to death, right? Physically or financially, if you're caught worshiping any of the old gods that you had before Rome came in. Rome came in, you got to worship who and what we say. That's it. Or we'll kill you out in front of everybody to make a lesson, or we'll have the priest do what they call the tax, where the tax people come in and they take your house, they take your money and all that. Well, that started then, right? So they'll take you and turn you from a wealthy person into a bum, right? Put you and your family out on the street, make your wife into a prostitute, take your kids, and, it was up. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how science develops on its own, right? Because science was always blended with God somehow. So once they made it totally, illegal to think outside the box, so to speak, outside the religious box, you had to divorce any ideas of consciousness or other from your studies. To study nature, you just had to study like, okay, cool, I'm studying these trees. Nope, these trees are not alive. Plants are not alive. I'm just studying the plant to see woo woo. So, it kind of comes from that space, right? It kind of comes from that space. So you kind of get science being more and more divorced from any natural ideas of like nature and life. And, so over time you get that dumbing down effect, right? Over time you get that dumbing down effect. So you have the concept from here, because this is the dominant thought process. It's also the dominant socializing and legal process, right? Man is just the dirt, right? Man is just the dirt, right? Or maybe I should put this on the other side. Yeah, let me put this on the other side so to make more sense, right? Soul is over here, and man as dirt is over here. Because it also becomes blasphemous to mix anything godly or divine or spiritual in scientific conversations. So this begins the process that later on leads to atheism and all of the other things that become associated with science in the 1400s, 1500s, or whatever the case may be, right? So you don't have any science that, if you start talking about this, and this was one of my battles for a long time. This was one of my battles for a long time. I was telling people I was teaching light body physics. They was like, that is mumbo jumbo. That is pseudoscience right there. Light body. There is no such a thing as a light body. And so I appreciate all of the opposition that I faced over the years. God bless them, because they forced me to be able to take the things that I intrinsically felt instinctually, the things that I studied, the things that I learned, and they forced me to be able to articulate myself. They forced me to study and find the information and be able to articulate myself and be able to explain and bring it all the way back. Right? Bring it all the way back. It may have taken me a long time, you know what I'm saying, from my 20s into my 30s to figure it out. But, because at one point, when I'm in my teenage years, I'm studying tantric science, I'm studying kundalini, I'm studying chakras, right? I'm studying all of these fringe. This is why now, almost 30 years later, I can easily point out and save people time and money and go, no. Don't listen to that. That's foolishness. Don't listen. Watch them. This ain't that. This is because I've been abused. You know what I'm saying? I've wasted money. I've wasted time. You know what I'm saying? Like every couple of years, there's a new energy scam, right? Every few years, there's the what was the thing? It was the chakras. It was the chi, the prana, and all that. Then when that ran out, what was it then? They came with the orgone energy, right? You have to get some orgone energy. And they had you making orgone energy stuff in your house, in your kitchen, or you was buying little orgone pyramids to put around your place and all kinds of foolishness. And then it turned into what? Torsion, something else. And every few years, they're coming up with some new foolishness to tap you in, right? To tap you in, right? Oh, yeah. No. This is This is this is the negative green energy. That's what they're like, Doc, they say it's negative green energy. Negative green energy? What? I'm like, do you know how crazy that sounds right there? Negative green energy. Negative green energy. So hold on. Green. So it's not light, it's energy. Okay. Light is energy. So I could kind of see where that's going, but energy doesn't have a color. The moment you put a color on it, you put a bandwidth in it. And if it's in the bandwidth, right, then it falls on a certain place in the electromagnetic spectrum. Then you put the negative on it so you could try to take it out of the electromagnetic spectrum. The moment you take it out of the electromagnetic spectrum, you have to explain to me what senses or equipment, what are we talking about? Like, how are you picking that up? How are you quantifying? Like, what are you talking about? Because otherwise, it's just a new gobbledygook that'll be around for a few years and then it'll switch to something else after they get busted. Yeah, after they get busted, right? But that's how we wind up going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I had my eureka moment where I'm like, wait a minute. Everybody has human energy wrong. And then that's where people started the rumor. Dr. EnQi is going against Dr. Sebi because I was like, the body's not electric. Right? The body's not electric. Right? Mitochondria are electric, but your body's not. Right? Now I use it euphemistically so people understand, because I know people are still on that, like that. That's like, I'm not going to say elementary, but that's more like high school. Graduate, get into college and the plus degrees, you know what I'm saying? The body's not electric. Mitochondria are electric. Right? We break down glucose and we put that into the mitochondria, but mitochondria is a separate organism that evolved on its own and cohabitates. We have a symbiotic relationship with mitochondria. Mitochondria has its own genome, so it retains its own unique identity. That's why we have mitochondria DNA and nuclear DNA. Nuclear DNA is the DNA of our cells. Mitochondria DNA is mitochondria. Now, both sets of DNA influence each other, but still separate, right? And so the relationship is mitochondria love electrons. Mitochondria is electric, right? They are electric. Mitochondria, the relationship we have with mitochondria is similar to the relationship we have with plants, right? Plants love carbon dioxide. We don't. We get rid of carbon dioxide, right? We love oxygen. Plants don't love oxygen. They get rid of oxygen. Great. We'll give you guys the CO2. You give us the oxygen. Perfection. Same thing with mitochondria. Mitochondria has a mechanism for recycling ATP. We need light. Mitochondria, electrons. Really, mitochondria is about water, right? So that's a later discovery. That's a later discovery. Like, hold up, mitochondria is not even really electric. This is water powered. This is a water powered mechanism that recycles water. But just on the surface level anyway, the electron transport chain is in the mitochondria. We feed them through sugars and fat breakdown. They recycle the ATP. Our cells then oxidize the ATP, and the light or energy that's released from the ATP is what our cells harness. So when I was able to start explaining, your ancestors weren't wrong, and now I can prove it. You say, no, the textbook don't say that. I'm like, let's go, just put out the textbook. How does a cell use ATP? Well, it oxidizes the ATP in the cytoplasm. Okay. What happens when that oxidation happens? Keep going. You stopping short. Keep going. Like, people read the Bible, they read a few verses, but they don't read the whole chapter. Keep reading. So when it oxidizes the ATP, it's an exothermic reaction releasing energy into the... Stop right there. Releasing what? Energy. Okay. Nail that down for me. What type of energy? I don't know. Okay. That's cool too. What is actually being oxidized? ATP. Yeah, but what is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. Okay, but what is adenosine triphosphate? What is a phosphate? What's an adenosine? Like, how are we going to do this? We got to get to the bottom of it, right? So, okay, so you got amino acid, sugar, right? You got nucleotide, right? You got your phosphate, phosphorus, oxygen. Perfect. Phosphorus and oxygen, because the whole thing is not being oxidized. You just really got a phosphate or the link between phosphates, right? So now what is a phosphate? Phosphorus and oxygen. Good. Let's stop right there. Let's look up the reaction of phosphorus and oxygen. What is the reaction that happens with phosphorus and oxygen? Phosphorus, in the presence of oxygen, emits light. Mic drop. After that, pretty much, things got different. Things got different because then, people with paperwork started to pay attention. Right? That separated me. Even though I'm still on the internet, I'm still on the YouTube, but the black YouTube, right? People with paperwork, PhDs and master's degrees and doctors and all kinds of other people with 500,000 subscribers, 1 million subscribers, they start listening, trying to steal the juice at that point. Because they like, hold on, hold. Yeah, that guy right there with the gold teeth. Yeah, I don't know where he's getting this, because that's the thing. I always got to be getting this from somewhere else, because clearly a black guy from the Bronx, 158th Street with gold teeth that talk like I do, he is impossible that I came up with this myself. That's the thing always. It's impossible that this is coming from me. And, initially I was a little perturbed, but after a while I was like, you know what? You're right. This doesn't come from me. It comes through me, right? Just doesn't come from anyone else. I will agree with you. It doesn't come from me, but it doesn't come from anyone else. This came from upstairs. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, other people started to pay attention. You know what I'm saying? But not in a way where folks want to help me out, keep the lights on, or, like make sure the fridge got something. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not going to get a lab and some grant money to, yeah, we're struggling, right? But paying attention to me in a way where I want to be able to steal, like, wherever he's getting this type of stuff from, that person is a genius. So, yeah, we need a line to that information. So we'll just monitor this guy. right? And 10 years, 5 years turning to 10, 10 turning to 15, 15 turning to 20. But we still got the juice. We still got the juice. You know what I'm saying? Like, so at that point, it was time to put a new, just start to rebuild the whole idea of the anatomy, right? With these two things intact, right? With these two things intact, right? Not a anatomy divorced of the Holy Trinity, right? Light, electricity, magnetism, right? Not soul, spirit over here, dirt and bacteria over here. We needed a new anatomy where we can understand how the miracle takes place, because this is really the miracle. This is really the magic. This is the divinity. This is the part where, you got to say to yourself, like, hold on. God is real. Even if you're an atheist, like whenever you're, you got to go, God is real. God is real, because we are literally dirt. And we do have to eat dirt every day. That's called your minerals. Like, we do have to continue to do that, right? We have to continue to eat dirt. These are facts, right? That's your minerals, right? So the fact that they're animated with light and electricity, and you have a memory system based on magnetism, that's that's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, beyond amazing. Words can't even really. So we needed to start putting that together, because it has never been done. It never been done before. So we the first people to do that in the books. So people going through, getting all of the books, you've been watching that kind of evolve from the very first electrician manual. Now we done went crazy with the electrician manuals. We got like 11. Yeah, we got like 11 electrician manuals. Then we got, radio anatomy. We just did a radio anatomy. Quantum cardiology. So we kind of going a little crazy with it, right? But understanding the body with the parts that science leaves out, and so then you take that a step further to go back around to brother's first question, which was the prayer and the herbs and the exercise. What is the interface? We having a mental health crisis, right? We're in a mental health crisis. That's a big thing that we need to think about. And unfortunately, okay, that's the snow trucks coming through. Unfortunately, oh man, we late. Hold on, I gotta get this prayer in real quick. 40 pages a day is kind of gangster. Do not hate on yourself. Do not hate on yourself. 40 pages a day is good. That's a solid start. It's people that read 2 pages and they head hurt. 40 pages a day is gangster. That's tough. You know what I'm saying? 40 pages a day is good, because reading is like muscles. You got to build up. You got to build it up. You have to build up reading, especially if you haven't been reading in a while. You got to build it up. You know what I'm saying? And then people got sugar issues, so their eyes aren't really there. You know what I'm saying? So you got to build up. You got to build it up, the muscles. You know what I'm saying? So you got to build up the muscle and you got to build up the attention span. So let me say that. Let me write that down. Okay, so I know where I was at because I know I'm gonna get lost once I jump into this.
Praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
Okay. They're like, yo, so how you get out of breath? Yo. I'm going to get to that part. Right? We kind of got to that part a little bit last night, but that's why we're picking up where we left off in the conversation. So, what I was saying. So reading, it's like muscles, right? If you haven't done it in a while, 2-3 pages, that's going to fatigue you. It's going to fatigue your brain. You got to put the book down. Don't push. You know what I'm saying? 2-3 pages, put the book down. Do something else. Like you might need to have YouTube on or TV on. That'll help you distract your mind. Have something else going on. Put the TV on. If you can't read that much, put TV on. During the commercials, read. TV show come back on, watch the TV show. Commercial come on again, read some more. Right? You build it up. Just like when you start doing push-ups. You can only do 2 or 3, cool. Do 3, stop, in sets. Right? You do workouts in sets. You don't have to work your mind any different. Right? If you go to the gym and lift weights, you do sets of 10. All right, put that down. Take a minute, something like that. You know, you might send the text out, jump back on it. And you build up the strength over time to where you go from lifting 10 pounds to 50 pounds to 100 pounds, 200 pounds. You know, it just take your time to build it up. So 40 pages, gangster. Does amen have any Kemetic roots? Amen is the Kemetic root. Yeah. Amen is the Kemetic root. There's no other amen. There's definitely no other amen. That's definitely from Amun. Right? So that's the silent nod and respect that all religion pays to their Kemetic roots. Right? Whether you're doing amen, amun, right? Because some churches, they don't do amen. They say amun, right? Amun Ra, right? And then the Muslims, they say Ameen. The Muslims say Ameen. Yeah, but those definitely, you definitely have Kemetic roots there, right? So, but definitely with your reading, like don't second guess it. Just, break it up. You know what I'm saying? Break it up. You know what I'm saying? That's how I always did it anyway. I always had books on me. Like I carry books around. Like the fibroids book. The fibroids book is literally named for ladies, to help ladies get the idea. Right? You see what that's saying, red? The pocketbook. The Soulcraft pocketbook. Ladies, this should go in your purse. Should have this in your bag at all times. Right? But I've done that since I was a kid. I made it a habit to carry books around because I learned, my father taught me, people waste a lot of time and you don't realize how much time you waste where you could have been studying. You know what I'm saying? Time on the toilet, people scrolling their timeline. You go to the supermarket, you standing in line. Right now, people doing Christmas shopping. They standing in crazy lines. You know what I'm saying? Like all that time you could been reading, and that time adds up. You wouldn't believe how much time that you could have got in studying. And this is why Like wealthy people, rich people, they have chauffeurs, they have drivers. I didn't really understand that as a kid. I thought having a chauffeur or a driver was just something you did out of wealth, like richness. Like I can afford to have a chauffeur, so I have a chauffeur. No, people that have a highly productive, they're making a lot of money. I ain't gonna say highly productive, but they're making a lot of money. They have a driver so that they can work all that time. I didn't really realize how valuable that was until I started driving back and forth to work when I lived in Georgia. I used to drive 90 minutes each direction. That's 3 hours a day wasted. 3 hours a day wasted. And I was working 6 and 7 day weeks. So that's 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month minimum that just went up into smoke, right? And so when you think about that, in 80 hours, you might have been able to read 2 books. In 80 hours, you might have been able to read 2 books, right? And it only takes 1 book to change your life. So, yeah, my pop just taught me, like, carry books on you. You never know when the opportunity will pop up. You know what I'm saying? Like you go to a show or something, you got to sit and wait 20 minutes for the joint to start. Or you go to the movies, even you're in the movie theater, you got the pre-commercials before the commercials even start. Like you got the pre-trailers before the trailers start. You sitting in the movies say it start at 5 o'clock. The movie don't get going until 5:30. You got a whole half hour, you just sitting there doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So just carry the books on you, break it up, read them when you can. Right? But so now back to the initial question, right? Realizing that we needed to do the anatomy over inclusive of the understanding that every cell in your body runs on light, right? Every cell in your body runs on light. That's number one. Every cell in your body also produces its own electricity, right? Because you have what's called what? Electrolytes. We take those for granted. Electrolytes, like literally, it's sitting right in front of us all this time. We have electrolytes. Electrolytes produce electricity, magnetism, light. Like that's literally what they're doing. You have electrical gradients that's always maintained, right? And that's where the phosphorus comes back into play again. So the phosphorus doesn't only play a role in like ATP and mitochondria, right? Your gotta erase this. Your cells, right? So we know there's a cytoplasm. We know the cytoplasm is a structured water, right? We know that's like a thick type of gel type of vibe and all that, right? But on top of that, cholesterol makes what's called what? What is your membrane made out of? Right? Phospholipids. Right? So this over here is the fat that's going to hold on to the cholesterol, right? And what? Your omega-3, right? But this part over here, we got our good old phosphorus back in the building. Right? And so what happens is you have your electrolytes And your electrolytes are usually, because you got some guys that's not main players in the electrolyte game, but your main players in the electrolyte game are sodium. I said players plural, and then I wrote down one thing, right? You got to pray for me. Sodium. This is the number one star of the show. This is the guy, right? This is the guy. So back in Kemet, this was the center of chemistry. The center of your chemistry is sodium, right? Why is sodium the center of chemistry? Because what is the center feature? What's the main thing of your body? What your body is made out of, right? What's your body made out of? Body's made out of water, right? Your body's made out of water. So sodium is the star of the show because everything else pretty much moves in water, but sodium moves the water. All other minerals pretty much move in the water. Sodium moves the water, right? This is why you got to watch, especially, black folks. We got to watch our sodium because kidney, blah, 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 right? So that's the slickness. So sodium is the star of the show. This is the main guy, right? And sodium is a positive ion, right? And then you got this guy. Sodium and chloride, right? Chloride is negative, right? So this is your basic electrolyte combination right here, right? This is your basic electrolyte combination, right? These are the guys that, and this phospholipid is this. Think of it like that. This line right here, that's dope. I didn't even think of that. That's a vibe right there. This line is the phospholipid, right? So pretty much this, when chloride moves out of the cell and sodium moves into the cell, you have an electrical gradient being produced. Now, it's not that simple because usually chloride and sodium, they moving in and out of the cell at the same time. And then you got potassium and calcium playing a role. And so it gets a little bit more complicated, right? But usually everything is following sodium's lead. Everything is usually following sodium's lead. The only reason I separated them is because of the charge value, right? That's the only reason I really separated them. But sodium is the guy that usually is leading the parade. And the phospholipid membrane is what's the word I'm looking for? It's like permeable to sodium. So sodium doesn't have to come into the cell through a channel. That's another reason why sodium can get crazy in your body, because almost everything else has to come in through a pore or a channel in order to get into the cell. Sodium could just intrude. It could just come into the cell, right? And it could damn near like make its own entryway in, right? And so it'll start a cascade of electrical events and phenomena in the cell that you may not want to be going on, right? But your cell also has to maintain some sort of negative charge, right? Which makes chloride a lot more important than people think. Makes chloride a lot more important than people think. So you got a lot of goofballs on the internet, herbal salesmen. I don't know. Y'all be supporting them guys. I'm trying to get y'all to hit the Cash App. We got a sale on the website. Y'all supposed to have bought 10 million detox kits already. I don't know what y'all are doing. I don't know what y'all are doing. Right? I know what y'all doing. Y'all waiting till the sale is off to ask me what happened with the sale. That's what every year. Yo, Ink, I thought it was on sale. Yeah, Black Friday. We're well beyond Black Friday, champ. It's extended through the Christmas holiday. We trying to start the new year off right? And we trying to drop our cholesterol numbers in the wintertime. That's what we need to learn how to do. We're not bears, right? We don't hibernate, right? If we hibernated and starved ourselves, then it would be different. You know what I'm saying? That we're not doing that. So, but anyway, back to the cell. So what happens is every time you pull sodium, who goes next? Calcium. Yeah, calcium. And then potassium. Usually that's how it goes, right? That's how it goes. And chloride be on the side doing its own thing. Chloride be on the side doing his own thing, attached, following what sodium is doing. But when these electrolytes cross the cell membrane, that's where the magic happens, in and out of the cell membrane. So when you see that conversation, they always leave that part out. That's how I could tell if they was really studying the information or if they was listening to somebody else who was studying the information. Like if they're repeating somebody who's repeating somebody who's repeating somebody, because they always just gloss over that part as if it's not important. Right? They say, oh yeah, so what happens is, there's your cell has to be, they'll break it down like your cell has to be at a negative 70 millivolts. And so what happens is, as the sodium leaks into the cell, you start to go up higher because sodium has a positive charge. And so once you reach a threshold of about negative 40, what happens is the pores open up, right? And then the positive ions start to come in faster, and you have a rapid depolarization where the charge of the cell shoots up as positive ions pour into the cell, crossing that cellular membrane. As they cross that cellular membrane, you have a rapid depolarization, and that is going to create an electrical current. I'm like, wait a minute. And then on the other side, they say, oh, now what happens is so as these same positive ions are now leaving the intercellular matrix and they're flooding the extracellular matrix, just means they're going outside the cell. As they're crossing that membrane, I kept hearing crossing the membrane. I'm like, right? And the Kemetic thing and the Greek thing and the Latin thing is always there, right? Because phosphorus is still, right? You still have Kemet in the building, right? You You still have Kemet in the building, right? Horus, the light bringer. Still got him in there, right? So Horus is still associated with internal light production. So that's how that's how I found it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a minute. So Horus, so it goes back to the original Osiris story, Wusia's story, right? Because Horus came from the soul of Osiris, right? So Horus is the light that's produced from the soul of Osiris. When you hear people telling the story, they leave certain, like the key details you don't pay attention to. I'm like, wait a minute. The soul. Okay, so this is inside. Okay, so Horus is the inner light. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold up. I think I found something. Inner light. The phosphorus. Wait a minute. That's a real thing. Where's the phosphorus at? Then I start finding it. You got the phospholipids, you got ATP, right? You got ATP, and that's for the everyday middle class cells. For the upper class, they don't do the ATP, they do GTP. Right? So all your cells don't run on ATP. Some of them run on GTP, right? Which is guanine triphosphate. Right? So when you get to like certain melanocytes and neurons and nerves and some of those cells, the ATP is not the only thing. That's not their main fuel or preferred fuel source. Right? They prefer the GTP, right? But anyway, figuring out this whole thing, right? The light and the electricity part and all of that kind of stuff. Once you get this down packed, it really drives home the fact that your body is a whole, it's one system. It's one system. And so I started to looking at fake science, right? What's fake science? Psychiatry. Psychiatry is accepted as a science, but it doesn't have any scientific proofs or validations. Right? They just diagnose people. They talk to people and diagnose them. Or they'll talk to people that, that know you and diagnose you. What kind of behavior are they exhibiting? Oh, yeah, that's classic this. But 99% of the things that they diagnose you with, like in the DSM, if you don't know about the DSM is the textbook. It changes every year or so, but it has all of the things that are considered to be mental conditions. And mental conditions, now here's the craziest part of this that they cannot, this is the craziest part of this whole thing. And this is where the specific answer to the questions coming in, right? How I found it, how I wound up approaching it, all of that, right? Mental conditions do not have, 90% of them do not have physical features that are associated with them. Meaning, if a person is diagnosed with diabetes, right? We know they have, we know they have the basic level, right? We know they have an A1C level of maybe 8, above 7, they got a high A1C, right? They got a high blood sugar level, high glycation. Okay, boom. Yeah, pre-diabetes, diabetes. Like there are physical things that we can document and say, if you have this level blood sugar, if your blood cells are coated with this amount, you got this much damage, diabetes. With the mental illnesses, they don't have that, right? They don't have that. But here's the kicker. The kicker is they give you drugs. They give you drugs. So immediately for me, I was like, hold up, scratch a lie, find a thief. Scratch a lie, find a thief. How do you even justify having a drug industry for mental illness if mental illness has nothing to do with the physical body? EnQi vision. I got to get y'all the glasses so y'all can have EnQi vision. Most of my stuff comes from questions because that's how my father taught me. If you're looking for a book and you can't find the book, then that means it's your job, son, to write that book. Because I went through stages of book reading. When I was a kid, I was into like magical, mystical stuff, but then I got more into the science. And I was always reading above my grade level. And so by the time I was in like my late teens, I had pretty much went through all of the stuff that I was interested in, like in regular bookstores and even some of the larger, rare type of bookstores where they would have, certain types of material. And my father was like, he was the one that told me, just go down to the college campuses. He was like, you don't have to be, going to college is for, if you want to get the piece of paper that gets you a certain job, that's what you go to college for. So you're investing a certain amount of money in a piece of paper, and that piece of paper is supposed to pay you back over the rest of your life. That's what college is about. College is not for knowledge because the books are there. You could just go down to the college campus and just buy the books. They're used too. You can just go buy all the college textbooks used. If you just want the information, you could just go buy that. I was like, wait, what? That was mind blowing for me as a teenager. I was like, wait, so I could just go get the books? He was like, yeah. So I started doing that, going to get used college books and stuff like that. And then eventually I would be having questions that I couldn't find answers to. He was like, son, listen, I don't know what to tell you. You done read everything everywhere, right? If what you're looking for is not in a book, then that means it's your job to write that book. So a lot of stuff came from me asking questions. I'm like, hold on. If mental illness has no relationship to the physical body, how do you justify giving people a drug? Because a drug has to be metabolized and processed in the physical body. I have to physically chew it, physically swallow it. It has to go through my digestive system and wind up somewhere in my physical body to make some physical changes. So are you saying that physical changes affects my mental illness? If physical changes affects mental illness, then guess what? Scratch a lie, find a thief. The mental illness really is physical illness. But y'all are getting over pimping. Y'all are getting over pimping, making billions of dollars in this make-believe magical world where you can indefinitely prescribe people drugs because you got people believing that mental illness is somehow rooted in some mystical, magical place that can't be touched or whatever. So technically, you need to book me at $500 an hour for the rest of your life. You need therapy. Yeah, you need therapy. And that's basically when you come hang out with me for an hour, tell me all your business. Come hang out with me for an hour, tell me all your private business. You know what I mean? And at the end, I'm gonna hit you with a little, some Zoloft's or some, I'm gonna prescribe you something. I'm gonna prescribe you something. And yeah. And so I was like, this is crazy. I done found something. I done found something else. I'm like, yo, this is crazy right here. This is a gold mine. You mean there's no physical description of these illnesses and they get to prescribe people drugs? And they're prescribing you drugs that you got to eat. But they're telling you that it has nothing to do with your physical body. I said, yo, this is crazy. I said, this is proof that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. This is proof. This is proof. Because how are you telling people that mental illness don't have nothing to do with their physical body and you giving the medication? I said, that's wow. The medication literally means that the mental illness is tied to the physical body because the medication can only make physical changes. This is what I'm saying. Medication can only make physical changes. Medication can only adjust your biochemistry or your neurochemistry. So the moment that you concede that changing biochemistry and neurochemistry, or either or, the moment you concede that changing biochemistry and or neurochemistry changes what I feel and what I think. So once it changes what I feel and what I think, then it changes how I act. Once you concede that my feelings and my thoughts can be changed by chemistry, it's over. Now we have a physical basis for mental illness. And now we have a conversation, right? It takes you right out of victim mode and puts you right back in the driver's seat, right? But the problem with being in the driver's seat is you're accountable again. That's why nobody want to watch Dr. EnQi, because I'm going to put you in the hot seat. You're going right back in trouble. Them folks will tell you, oh, mental illness is not your fault. You don't have any way to, it's just something you got to deal with. So let's go ahead and book you in and hook you up and pop these pills and woo, woo, woo. I ain't going to tell you. I'm like, hold on. This is what we got to. Okay. So something happened to you before? Okay, cool. Something happened to me before too. So yeah, get over it. Moving forward. Moving forward. Yeah, moving forward. Stuff happens to everyone. You don't get to use whatever happened to you as a perpetual excuse for you to happen to everyone else. That's not, we're not doing that. Right? So what do we need to do to get this together so we can move forward? Yeah. Right? So there's a physical connection, right? And so that was just the first insight when it all clicked. And this is probably my early 20s. This is my early 20s where it really clicked that I was like, yo, this is a scam. The whole psychiatry. I said, yo, this is a scam. This is crazy. This is a scam. This is a massive $1 trillion fraud scam. This is a scam. And it's a $1 trillion scam. It's not a $1 billion scam. It's really probably a quadrillion dollar scam because a lot of people eat off it, right? Because you got people going to school to get degrees to be psychiatrists. So that means the schools are eating off the scam. Yeah, the schools are eating off the scam. Yeah, the schools are eating off the scam. The doctors are eating off the scam, right? Because they're making great livings. They're making millions of dollars, right? Then the pharmaceutical companies, they're making scams. They're making billions of dollars, right? So it's a huge scam, right? Huge scam, right? So that, right? So I know y'all like, so what book is that in, Doc? Yo, what book? You just went crazy, Doc. What book is that in? it's in the books, right? Because we right. So we started off the conversation, right? Talking about these two books, right? But in this book, right, you see the early Christ right there, right? You see Christ right there, right? The heart wave, right? But in this book, we got a chapter where we start putting that together. The link between your chemistry, thoughts, and feelings, and how those things go back and forth, right? So that's how experiences affect us. An experience, right? An experience creates chemistry, right? We have memories stored. We have stored memories of experiences. When we remember the experience, right? The way we're able to remember, put it back together again. When we remember it, we experience it again. How we do that is by your body reproducing that chemistry. So this is how you can find yourself in a space where you constantly have maybe the same type of relationships or same type of this or that, because your body can become addicted to those experiences because your body's addicted to the chemistry those experiences produce. So sometimes how we socialize, we don't realize it because we're not having the conversations. We don't realize that how we socialize is based on our addictive nature, right? And that goes back to what? Melanin versus diabetes. Hold on, Doc. How you do that? Because in our brain, right? All of our neurons, like we got mad different types of neurons, right? All of them are not neuromelanin. It's not neuromelanin in every type of neuron, right? They're not all dopaminergic. That's the word, you know what I'm saying? That just means dopamine producing. So the neurons that are dopamine producing are your main neurons that are melanin producing, right? And so it's the dopamine track in the brain that is the addictive. You hear about the reward pathway. The reward pathway is made out of dopamine neurons, right? That's their way of saying, without saying, that melanin controls your physical behavior. See, they're not going to put that on Front Street because then that goes back to Rome, the Latin, back to Greek, back to Kemet, because in Kemet, this was the worship of Osiris. See, we think worship is something different than it was back then. Remember, back then, science and religion is one thing. So worship back then is the active study. Worship back then is active study, right? Not just study, like reading up on. No, active study. Workship, like it's active study, right? So this is how, they've disguised it, but it's still, science is largely the worship of Osiris. Largely, still the same, right? It's still, they just coded it different and but that's literally what it is, right? So you can look it up, the reward pathway, dopaminergic neurons, right? Dopaminergic, DOPAMINERGIC, dopaminergic neurons, and the reward pathway and addiction and all that. It'll come right up for you. Yeah, it'll come right up for you. But what you probably won't see there is that that's your neuromelanin track. All of that's neuromelanin. That's literally the neuromelanin. All of that area. The area responsible for what you do every day. Hate it or love it. The underdog's on top. And I'm going to shine boy until my heart stop. Go ahead. It be me. Yeah, that's how I go. You know what I'm saying? So they'll reverse engineer it. So that's why in textbooks for a long time, melanin was listed as a waste product. Yeah, melanin was listed in your brain as a waste product of dopaminergic production. Like it's a side thing. You know, they don't know what it's doing there is in the way. You know, but they know whenever your brain produces dopamine, it's also producing neuromelanin. So you got this waste product, this side effect, you know, melanin. What is this stuff? You know what I'm saying? So when you think about all the things that dopamine is doing, yeah, that's the study of that black stuff, whatever that stuff is, right? So learning, being focused, paying attention, having the behavior that allows you to find food, clothes, and shelter. That's that same reward pathway. That's the black stuff. Yeah. And the further you get into studying it, the more you realize that you got to just go back and look and go like, this is how I keep winding up in Kemet. Like I'm not into the metal nature or the archaeology. I don't care if they finding old bricks and old crowns and old outfits and all that. Who cares about that? Oh, we found a 16th century BC bowl, and we think this belonged to the auntie of King such and Nefer. Like, I don't care about that. To me, that's stupid. But respectfully, I respect what other people find, you know, like you got to pass the time and find hobbies, whatever kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not interested in that. Now, is there something slick written on the side of that bowl? Like, is there something on there that relates to something special being put in the bowl that when you put it in, it's going to change the chemistry? Like, what does the outside the bowl say? Oh, it doesn't say anything? Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I'm not interested in that. I don't care about that. You see what I'm saying? But you always got to go back to that space because the study started there. They're the first people to document the stuff. So that's how I always find myself back. Like, man, I got to go back and look at what these folks were saying again. Just when you thought you got away from studying, you got to go back again. Like, wait a minute. What's in that papyri again? No. The Ebers papyrus. No. Not the section on the diabetes and the sugar. What were they saying about the ib? The heart, the mind thing. What were they saying about that? Let's cross-reference the ib and any of that black. Is there any black references or references to Osiris or any gods associated with the ib stories? Like, let's cross-reference. I'm like, let me get some cross-references on any ib stories associated with the gods. And you start figuring out, because here's the thing. These same goofballs would tell you that the netter really wasn't people. Those stories is just about forces, universal forces of creation, right? So when you're talking about the netter, you're talking about like the same way we would talk about the periodic table or electricity or something like that. That's what the netter really is. So now that we know the heart is associated with the id, but it's the mind. Oh, wait a minute. They did tons of research on mental illness. All this stuff with the ib is mental illness research. You goofball, you dumb ninjas. Like, I'm like, y'all gonna slap you. They got tons of research on mental illness. But you just don't know it because you don't know that they talking about the mind when they mention the ib. So literally what they're saying is right? So this is what I learned from Kemet, and I'm explaining to you all how I learned it, so you have more interest in the book, so you know how the books came about, right? Kemet was the people that discovered discovered and documented. Discovering and documenting, I find out two different things. That's another reason we got books, right? Discovering is not it. You got to document you discovered. Kemet discovered and documented the link between mental illness and the body, right? This is why they have the two words, right? This is why they have the two words. This is why they had the two words in the first place. Right? This is why they had the two words in the first place. Right? Right? You got this word and you got this word. Now, they're not related at all, or maybe not. But in my mind, sometimes I use stuff to help me remember stuff, right? Mental tricks, right? The id is the heart, right? The mind, right? The ibis is the god of wisdom. Now, they're not related, right? But I use this as a mnemonic device so I could learn stuff. You got to find ways to trick your mind into storing stuff, right? That's why we have the If P Then Q book. This book is about how to learn, how to store stuff, right? How your brain actually works with your mind, right? But the Ib represents the mind, right? And then the Ibis, that's Jehudi. That's the god of wisdom. So I use that like as a mnemonic device to remember stuff, right? But what I'm saying is, Kemet, they discovered the link between mental health and the physical health. So that's why you have two words, both of them mean heart, right? But this one is the physical, and this one is the mental, right? That's the mental, that's the mind, right? So now, fast forward, and this is where we going into this book, right? So y'all got to go find this book. This is not in the Kemetic Science series, right? So when you go to Amazon, you got to type in Melanin vs. Diabetes book 2, and this will pop up, right? This is in the MDR book series, right? In that book, we go through, what I guess is cutting edge. It's cutting edge because, and it's going to stay cutting edge even when it gets mad old. It's still going to be cutting edge because the psychiatrists and the drug people, they're not giving up their bag. They got a bag. They got an amazing business, and people now are having more anxiety issues, more depression issues, and that. So they're not giving up their bag, right? So it's just going to stay cutting edge, right? Cutting edge is, common people think cutting edge is new stuff, right? But sometimes cutting edge means factual stuff that we're not going to acknowledge in the mainstream. It's factual, but we're not going to put it in the mainstream. So it's just going to stay in this little small pocket so that the people that go look for it and the people that go find it, you could benefit from it. But other than that, the general population, we keeping these people dumb, and we keeping this money. We getting paid off this, because it's not just the schools, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the therapists, the pill pushers. It's not just them making money off of it. It's the prison system. So that's the other big piece to the mental health money bag. The money grab is the prison system. 70%. So here's the thing. I'm 47, right? When I was a kid, we had mental institutions like crazy houses. You know what I'm saying? Like in the Bronx, in New York, you know what I'm saying? We had Bellevue. You know what I'm saying? At least in the Bronx, that's where people went, to Bellevue. You know what I'm saying? If you had mental illness, they took you to the crazy house. It's a hospital just for mentally ill people, right? When they came up with the pipeline to prison, Jabari peoples, Jabari Osazi, yeah, Jabari peoples. When Jabari, right, we got to put that on. When Jabari and the Democrats came up with this pipeline to prison with the corporations, right? And I forgot when I did the research who was behind it. It was a couple of food companies. McDonald's wasn't one of them. So I can't put no smut on their name. But I think it was some guys that was heavily invested in like KFC and a couple other food companies. Anyway, when they came up with this pipeline to prison thing, a part of it was replacing the mental illness places. So most of now your mentally ill is a part of the prison population. So mentally ill, having mentally ill people all over the place, that's a boom for prison, because you just lock them up. Yeah, you just lock them up. And when you lock them up, they get worse, because when you have mentally ill people mixed with criminally clever people, the criminal people are going to take advantage of the mentally ill people. The criminal people are going to take advantage of the mentally ill. Look at Hassan Campbell. Hassan Campbell keeps saying, I'm a shooter. I'm a shooter. No, you are a mentally ill person that older guys took advantage of in more than one way, right? More than one way. You were being sexually abused because you were mentally ill. And then it was easy for them to tell you, to send you on a dummy mission. Here, take this knife, go do this. Take this gun, go do this. Oh, such and such just did a crime. Hold on to this gun, take this charge. Like, it's very easy to abuse mentally ill people. So when you put them in a prison population, it gets worse. They're going to only get sexually or violently assaulted in prison until, in order to protect themselves, they become the assaulter, right? So mentally ill is having people just undisciplined. And that's where discipline comes in. That's where the discipline comes in, right? The discipline of religion. And so that's where you get put in between a rock and a hard place, because you have religions that have done well for people in one way, but abuse people in others, right? Or you have different people come into religion for different reasons. You have people that have come to religion because they're spiritually inclined, right? So they're looking for the knowledge. They're looking for the ancient roots. They're looking for that. Then you may have people that have issues that are looking for discipline that they can't find at home. They don't have it in the home structure. Religion used to supply that. Now gangs supply that, right? So, there's a lot of different ways that the mentally ill are exploited. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just the pill pushers. You know what I'm saying? Mentally ill people are exploited in a lot of different ways. So anyway, we made the connection. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold up. If you're giving pills, I gotta keep saying that. So people get, if you're giving pills, the moment you prescribe any sort of medication for a mental illness, that means that it is a biochemical thing. And if it's a biochemical thing, guess what? This is the link. This is the link. Your cardiovascular system. And so in this book, we not only go through the information, right? But we go through a lot of the tests. We go through a lot of the tests, and we go through a lot of the ways that you can make the adjustments yourself, right? So you have, for instance, you have certain drugs that they address your mental illness by, let's say, slowing down your brain's ability to produce dopamine, right? Because maybe your mental illness is associated with too much dopamine. Maybe your mental illness is associated with not enough dopamine, right? You're not producing enough dopamine. So they'll give you a drug so that you produce more dopamine, right? Or maybe you're, serotonin, right? Maybe you're too aloof. Maybe you can't focus, right? So serotonin inhibitors, right? We're going to give you some serotonin inhibitors, right? So you produce less serotonin, right? But then what happens is anytime you make a change, the way your body works, and this is right how we were having the conversation, your body is all connected up. Everything is connected up, right? So for instance, serotonin inhibitors is a big business. They prescribe that a lot. SSRI, I think it's called SSRI drug pills, right? Somebody watching might be like, "Oh, I'm taking SSRI, right?" So here's the problem with those, right? And some people get good benefit. I'm not an anti-doctor, anti-drug person. I'm just a real, honest person, right? Transparency, right? So the problem is, no drug is going to work for everybody. No herb is going to work for everybody. No protocol is going to work for everybody. Everybody's body is unique. So that's not an issue, right? But here's the thing. If I cut your body's ability to produce serotonin, right? Serotonin has other things that it does besides affect how you feel and think, right? Serotonin has to be converted into melatonin by your pineal gland, right? Melatonin is the thing that puts you to sleep. So if you notice, a lot of people that's on serotonin inhibitors, they also need another drug now for you to go to sleep because you're up at night. And then when you're up all night, being up all night creates other mental complications, other mental illnesses. So now I done fixed this one or two problems with this, but you done producing no melatonin because we stopped the serotonin. So now, because you're not producing serotonin, it's not converting to melatonin, we're giving you something to get you to sleep at night, right? So now we're going to give you a synthetic, right? But the other problem is melatonin plays a key role in your REM sleep, right? Your REM sleep, your glutathione cycle, right? That's why melatonin, one of the ways where, like, if you look on all of the big white YouTube pages, they talk about melatonin fighting cancer and this and that. The way it's doing that is because it affects your REM sleep and it affects your glutathione cycle, right? Your glutathione cycle is not just antioxidant support, but it also controls your ability to have REM sleep. REM sleep is important because a couple of things happened with REM sleep. When you got REM sleep going, You have the sirtuins is at work, right? So you might hear about the sirtuins. The sirtuins is repairing up the cells and all that, right? So your day-to-day wear and tear on your body is ameliorated by the sirtuin activity at night when you in REM sleep, right? So if you don't get any REM sleep, your body ages a lot faster. So even if you never get a disease, that in and of itself is a disease because you're aging way faster than you're supposed to be, right? If you don't know, yes, yeah. Now, that's on the physical side, right? On the mental side, right? Your brain is doing work. So I shouldn't even say brain, I'll say neural. You in your brain, the physical brain, right? Your brain is storing memories, right? It's pruning neural networks, like how somebody come and like you got landscaping, you know what I'm saying? So you see people have bushes in their yard, right? Some people bushes look real organized and trimmed and all that, and some people's just look crazy. Well, the people whose is trimmed, that would be equivalent to the people who get REM sleep at night. When you go to REM sleep, your brain decides all the information that you come across throughout the day that you don't need. It gets rid of all those senseless neural networks. So that way, the most important neural networks can be fed, can be watered and cleaned. Because also what has to happen is your cerebral spinal fluid has to go through and wash your brain. So that's another part to it, like all what is it? I was about to say autism. The other thing, Alzheimer's dementia. You get all these tau proteins and all this stuff, plaque building up in your brain. They make it seem like this is some unstoppable thing that your body can't fix, but we wouldn't be here if your body couldn't fix that, because that stuff builds up in your brain every single day. Just like when you use a muscle. When you use a muscle, all kind of poisonous stuff builds up in your muscle because you're breaking down muscle tissue from wear and tear. But guess what? The water is able to come in there, get rid of the ammonia, the lactic acid, and all whatever is in there, wash it out, clean it, and then rebuild it. So now the muscle gets stronger. The same thing supposed to happen to your brain. You learn stuff on Monday, you go to sleep Monday night, your brain supposed to do the brain magic while you're in deep sleep, and then you're supposed to wake up Tuesday smarter than you was on Monday. A lot of people, that's not happening. We're into a lot of different stimulants and drugs and late night TV and all kinds of other stuff we into. So our brain doesn't get to do. See, a lot of this stuff is in this book right here. If P, then Q, surgery without a knife, right? A lot of this in this book. So I know people was like, yo, so this is crazy, doc. Yo, this is you going in. No, this is just stuff that's in the books. You got to get these books. Right? So you don't get the REM sleep. You know, there's a lot of stuff that happens to your brain that affects your attention span, your memory, and all kinds of stuff. So all of that can come from you taking the serotonin inhibitor, because the serotonin inhibitor stops the melatonin stops the deep sleep. If you take the synthetic melatonin, it might get you to sleep, but it's not going to behave in your body the same way as your natural melatonin does. Right? There's never a substitute for the natural compounds, especially if it's not plant-based. Right? If you have something from a plant, it's going to be a lot more similar to what your body produces on its own. If it comes from a lab, if it comes from a dish, if it comes from a bowl, it's not going to be the same as what your body produces. Right? But science has narrowed down beyond a shadow of a doubt that And they admit it the moment they prescribe you a drug, that mental illness, 90% of mental illness is physical. You have a chemical imbalance somewhere, right? A chemical imbalance. And with a chemical imbalance, you control your chemistry. You control that every day with how you exercise or lack thereof and what you eat. But if you know that, it's a lot of people get cut out of a bag, especially if you learn how to make the adjustments. If you learn how to make the adjustments. For instance, let's give you some for instances. What's my favorite page? Oh, okay. Page 56 to 57. If you learn, like how I just walked through those relationships. In this book on page 56 to 57, we got a bunch of those relationships there laid out. So like how I would just say, oh, so if you don't got the serotonin, then you don't got the melatonin. If you don't got the melatonin, then you don't got this. Boom, 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 boom. That's how chemistry works, just in case. Everything in your body is a domino effect. That's how it goes, right? So when one thing, chemical reaction happens, that triggers another chemical reaction. That triggers something else. And each set of chemical reactions, what goes along with that is cellular actions, right? So for instance, if you go into a beta cell, right, in the pancreas, a beta cell, you have to have a chemical reaction that opens up the beta cell, right? Then it's a chemical reaction that allows calcium to flow into the cell. Then calcium triggers a chemical reaction that triggers another chemical reaction that triggers another chemical reaction that starts insulin to be produced. At the same time as insulin is being produced, GABA is being produced, right? So everything is a set of chemical reactions that lead to another one, to another one, to another one. And anywhere along the chain that you stop it, you stop in a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And so that's where the conflict between natural and the chemical, you know what I'm saying? But if you learn, oh, wait a minute. All I need to do is boost up maybe AKG or boost up mTOR activity or boost up cellular respiration or boost up my metabolism. Like how do I do that? Oh, well, all you got to do is add this in. That's why the detox kit is on sale on the website. You goofball. You goofball. I done told you 1,000 times, the NRF2 system. The NRF2 system is the center of all cellular defense. Well, wait a minute. We're talking about mental illness. You're talking about cellular defense. Yeah, because cellular defense means anything that stops the cell from homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balance where the cell does its natural job. You don't have a chemical imbalance unless you have some sort of cellular imbalance, right? So some cells, some group of cells somewhere are either overproducing or underproducing whatever the thing is that they're supposed to be doing. And so instead of that being pinpointed out to you, right, and you can figure that stuff out, right? That's why we have the books. So you have the information to figure that stuff out. You just map it out. Oh, okay. Well, I do this. I get really anxious in these scenarios. Okay. Well, what's happening is that environment is triggering this set of chemistry. So what we want to do is we want to take this, or we want to eat this, or we want to exercise this type of way. So that way you already have a comfortable, amount of this circulating, right? It could be something as simple as taking a walk, right? Taking a walk. And we've known about this for years, but nobody's going to teach you that it's a neurochemical thing. They're not going to teach you it's an immune thing, right? Taking a walk frees up your body's aromatic amino acids. Bam. So when you free up extra aromatic amino acids, specifically tryptophan, right? Now you have more tryptophan available for NAD production. And also tryptophan is the thing that makes serotonin. Ta-da! Right? So tryptophan becomes NAD, serotonin. Now, you might have a problem because you drink liquor. Right? Wait a minute, Doc. How does liquor fit in? Well, liquor is like agave. Agave syrup and liquor is both high in fructose. Fructose is a type of sugar. We have different types of sugar. Fructose inhibits your body from metabolizing tryptophan. So if you're constantly consuming something that's stopping your body from using tryptophan, well, that means your energy system is going to be affected because you're not going to be able to produce NAD. And then that means your mind is going to be affected because your serotonin is going to be off. Serotonin's off, melatonin's off, blah, 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 blah. We go through the whole program, right? So just saying, so all of that's linked together, right? All of that's linked together. So hopefully it's starting to click how the herbs and the exercise affects the prayer, because prayer is herb and exercise for the mind. So maybe we need to spend a little bit more time with that. We spend a good portion of, but you know what? I know what it is. I didn't really pull up stuff. I need to pull up stuff. So let's break prayer down into what it is, right? Outside of like getting deep into like transmitting information in the spine and all that kind of stuff. Like, let's get into the simpler aspects of it. And maybe that'll hopefully, like we can rest our laurels, right? We can sit right in that pocket for a second, right? So what is prayer? Communicating. Do I put communicating with God for prayer? Everybody may not believe in that, right? Okay, so let's take God out of the equation, which is mental illness all by itself. Once we take God out of the equation, we already crazy. So, but I'm going to delve into the land of the crazies for a second, hopefully to try to reach you, right? When you're teaching, I got to come down to your level. I got to be where you at. So prayer, let's remove God from prayer, which I got to say again is crazy, right? But memorization. Boom. We just start right there. Memorization. Right? That's literally the whole idea of the brain. So, man, we are literally going back to book one. Where is book one? It's so thin, it can just hide anywhere. Okay. In book one. Book one is important. Book one is loaded with jewelry. In book one, let's read from book one. When we are born, we have a pretty empty hard drive or spirit. Although we can perceive, our pineal glands aren't fully developed until 12 to 36 months of age. Once we have a fully developed pineal gland, we can begin transferring what we perceive to the mind, right? So we don't build up a memory, right? We have some sort of memory because all of our cells collectively contribute to memory, but we don't have like an adult memory, like what we think of, like how our memory works right now. It doesn't work in the first few months of life. It's not till, and then some people develop, their brains develop faster than others. That's based on genetics. And that's also based on environment, nurturing or stimulation, right? Once we perceive a thing, we have a binary choice, right? So we walking through literally how we form our mind, right? Once we perceive a thing, we have a choice. We can act on what we perceive or we can ignore it. Simple. Act on it, ignore it, right? Life is largely a process of learning and being taught. Each situation, each exposure is a learning experience, whether we are conscious of it or not. Each thing we learn becomes an algorithm in our mind, which creates the options of response to the things we perceive. Right? Each thing we perceive, we can act or ignore, right? I'll give you a real-time example. My mother told me, and this is burned into my memory, literally and figuratively. This is an entendre. That's multi-levels of meaning to being burned into my memory, right? My mother kept telling me, watch out for that ironing board. But I kept seeing her do her thing with it. And I don't know, I was just infatuated with the, I guess because she told me not to mess with it, I need to mess with it. But anyway, eventually I can't ignore it anymore. I have to act on the ironing board. So I tries to grab the iron. She's ironing clothes. She step off for a hot second, pun intended, a hot second. And I need to do my thing. And boy, oh boy, as a little kid, the iron basically covered my entire arm. And when she pulled it off, I didn't have no skin. It was just all white meat. All my skin was on the iron. Now, I grew up in a hard life. My mom's was tough in a way that, yeah, it was tough. You know, you need a MF and nap. Was a MF and nap. My mom was a holistic healer. We'll put it like this. My mom was a holistic healer, and she had 2 medicines. In her whole bag, she had 2 medicines. You needed to get a whooping, or you needed the MF and nap. Okay, so all my skin off my arm is gone. I needed an MF and nap. Told you, don't mess with that iron. Now you need a nap. So she done put me together. I don't know what she put on it. She put something on it, some love, wrapped it up, bandaged me up. But it was seared into my brain, literally and figuratively. Now that's a part of my working algorithm. Now I have a memory. Now I know if I act, right? Now I know, because the iron's not going anywhere. We got to get new iron, but still going to be iron in the house. But now I have an algorithm associated with the thing, right? Now I have knowledge of good and evil, right? Now I have knowledge of good and evil. Now I know. right? Science to know. Now I know, right? If I act on that, and it still might be a thing now because I never like to iron my clothes ever. So I get somebody to iron it for me. Soon as I got me a few dollars, I start going to the cleaners. I'm like, iron? Yeah, I'm good on iron. Yeah, I don't know. Something about the iron. Oh, it's something about the iron, all right. In my algorithm, yeah, we don't, yeah, bad experience. We don't mess with it. Right. But that's how our life goes. And so people have perception based on their experiences like that. And this is how our mind gets filled up with data and how we eventually create not only our perception of the world, because how we see the world is less important than how we think the world sees us. Right? That's very important. How we think the world sees us, right? And it's largely based on experiences. So a lot of times you got psychiatrists and psychologists, they just pimping the fact that you don't know how your brain works. You don't know how memories are formed. You don't know how personality is formed. So they get to go in there and start messing around. Man, they get to go in there and start tinkering with stuff. Oh, tell me what happened when you were a kid. Did anything happen with your mom? Everything happened with my mom and what are you talking about? I was a kid, of course. All kids, everything happens with their mom and they're like, what do you mean? That's called parents. Like, just let's knock this crazy stuff off. Right? How do I get rid of the anxiety? You know what I'm saying? Or like, why do I go 0 to 100 real quick? Right? And then there's a part of racism that has messed up science as well. So people get to profiteer off that, right? So because of racism, right, there are things that we can't discuss, right? Taboo, right? Remember, I keep saying it's cool to discuss it if you're a dog breeder. If you're a dog breeder, you got to get the pedigree. You want the pedigree of your dog. They charge you extra. You might pay a whole extra 500, 1,000, 2,000. Like, you can go get you a dog for $300 somewhere. Right now, it's the holiday season. You could go get you any type of mutt, any type of dog. It don't matter. You could find somewhere that they're willing to sell you a dog for $300, $500. You can go get you a puppy. And it's a dice shoot. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if that's a purebred dog or a mutt. Chances are it's a mutt and not a purebred. That's why they ain't got no papers, right? But you never know. It could be a purebred, right? And more importantly, you don't know the temperament of the dog. See, they cover up a lot of information with words. That's why words is important to learn, right? That's literally what it means to be at a 4th or 5th grade reading level versus being at a more, a more having a better understanding of words, right? It's just words. It's just the size of the words, the amount of words is just words, right? And being able to use context to find it, because nobody knows every word in their language, but understanding context will help you, a great, go far. But temperament. So they use the word temperament to hide a bunch of stuff, right? You got to pick that apart. What is temperament? Oh, well, how the dog responds to you and the children, and whether the dog is like aggressive or this or that or blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute. So all that's based on the parents? Yeah. 2 + 2, right, equals 4. If P, then Q. So this is how genetics works. Because I thought genetics was just protein. I thought DNA only controlled, how your physical body develops. Any dealer of any type of animals will tell you the temperament, the intelligence of the dog, all that you could tell by looking at the dog family tree. Same thing with people, right? So there are some things that you're dealing with that's a part of your genetic inheritance. So somebody having a conversation with you once a week or giving you a bunch of pills to pop, that may not be the solution, right? Neither is recounting stories. That may not be the solution. You may need to look at your family tree, right? One of my favorite people on earth, right? I literally say this all the time. Like, probably the reason that I live in Michigan is ET, the hip hop preacher, right? Anytime I need it, I can get motivation listening to him. He tells a story. Well, I ain't gonna say his personal business, but listening to other people's life stories, I'll just say it that way. Listening to other people's life stories, you can pull lessons from your own. You know what I'm saying? Well, actually, I'll say it because it's not that big of a deal. But he says, one of his more personal stories, he says that he never drank, he never smoked, he never tried to get drunk or high because he looked at his family tree. And in his family tree, he's seen a lot of people that had problems with drugs and alcohol. So he said to himself, maybe it's something in my genetics that we can't handle drugs and alcohol well. So I'm just going to avoid them. So he never smoked weed. He never did anything. Right. That's a very powerful, 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 powerful lesson. You know what I'm saying? I used to say the same thing to people about ice cream. Right? Because the mental component is a tough thing for people to deal with when they're dealing with different illnesses. Like, that's one of the biggest things with folks that have diabetes, particularly, or pre-diabetic or predisposition to diabetes, right? They have trouble with the fact that everybody's enjoying something and they cannot. They have trouble with that. Like, everybody's eating ice cream. I can't have no ice cream. Everybody's having cookies and cake. I can't have no cookies and cake. This is crazy. Why not? I'm normal. I'm this, I'm that. These are preconceived notions based on a lie. Scratch a lie, find a thief. There's no such thing as normal. Normal is different. That's what normal actually is. Normal for a human is to be unique. Normal for a human is to be different, unique. You're not alike anyone else. But when we had the split between science and religion, a lot of stuff got jumbled around and mixed up. And then science became anti-God. And so God became the irregular thing. Right? God became irregular, and then science became we'll just put regular. Right? But under regular, we're going to put consistent, duplicatable, right? Over here, under irregular, we're going to put miracle. right? Divine, right? We'll add one more. One of one, right? So when science and God, science and spirituality split up, over here, in order for something to be scientific, it has to be duplicatable. So everything real became duplicatable. If it's not duplicatable, it's not real. That's not real science. Well, guess what? Life would not be real science because everything in life is unique. It's one of one. It's irregular. It's a miracle. Yeah, it's not reproducible. Nothing about life except for life itself is reproducible. Period. Everything is unique. You can't reproduce your fingerprints. You can't reproduce your eye. Like, you can't reproduce anything about a person. And you learn that when you study anatomy. So it's not like the people on the science side don't know this. Only the public doesn't know that this is foolishness. Only the public doesn't know this is foolishness. No two people have the same nervous system. No two people have the same nervous system. No two people have the same circulatory system. Now, do we all have a nervous system? Absolutely. But do we have the same? No, we don't. Some of us have more nerves to certain areas of our body than others. Some have less. Over time, your nerves atrophy. They grow back. They heal. They break down. They wither. Nobody has the exact same nervous system. Nobody has the exact same circulatory system. Nobody. It's just like your fingerprint. It's unique to you. It's your body. Right? So this is a part of the problem with science and spirituality, or God breaking up, is that we start to let ideas of foolishness, of socializing, of law, of colonization bleed into real life. And real life is irregular. But this got associated with miracles. Oh, it only happened once? That's divine. So that's God. Whoop, we're going to put that over there. Oh, we got a lot of people that witnessed it. Okay. Yeah, so that means it should be scientific fact because we witnessed it. The problem is not with the witnessing. The problem is not with having the experience. The problem is if it's not reproducible or duplicatable, because we're still dealing with some out-of-date Greco-Roman foolishness, it's not considered to be real scientific. So fast forward 2024, people get to make $1 zillion by telling you a bunch of gobbledygook, right? Because you also create mental conditions when you invalidate people's experiences. A lot of people feel like they're going crazy when they experience something and everybody around them tell them that's not real. You're like, hold up, I know it's real because I've experienced it. What do you mean it's not real? I experienced it. No, that's not real. Eventually, that person is going to have to compartmentalize what they've experienced from the rest of their life. And as you begin to compartmentalize areas of yourself into not self, that can grow into what's called mental conditions. And before long, you're bipolar or multiple personality or this and that and the other, because you don't even realize somewhere along the line, as you was a kid, you done started compartmentalizing. And to a certain extent, it's natural to compartmentalize. But once it goes too far, you lose control of compartmentalization. And now you got a condition. Now you got a neurochemical imbalance because it's natural to compartmentalize. As kids, we don't behave the same way at home in front of our parents as we do in school. When we get to school, we a little bit more, we a little bit more us. Right? You saying cuss words, all kind of stuff. You ain't the same in front of your parents as you are in school. And then when you're in school, you still under some level of supervision. So you still not the same way as you are when it's just you and your friends. When it's just you and your friends and no adults around, oh, you a third person. So you're one way when you with your parents, you're another way when you at school, and then when you outside by yourself, you a whole nother person, right? So it's natural to start compartmentalizing to some extent. You know, when we're adults, we do it, right? There's a way that's socially acceptable to behave. So when we're at the job, we're one person, right? You might be at your job with people that you know for 15 years at your job. Then all of a sudden, y'all have a Christmas party. You go to the Christmas party, and Teddy is losing his mind. Teddy done went through half a bottle of Ciroc. You ain't never seen this type of Teddy before. You ain't never seen Sharon behave like this before. You are totally Sharon. Sharon is coming out of the closet half naked with Teddy. Both of them is married to other people. You don't know what, this is crazy right here. What was you doing in the closet with? You just say no. This is the real Sharon and Teddy. You thinking, well, I know them for 15 years. They never behaved like this before. So this is just you just knew the work version of them. Work was over at 5 o'clock. This is the 16-hour version of them. Think about it. You only at work for 8 hours. The 16-hour version is the version you met at the New Year's party. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully it's making sense, right? So this is why we have all of these books, right? We have all of these books that deals with the other side, right? We have this book. We have this book. This is the GOAT of all of them, right? Because this deals with nothing else. These two books. If you had to narrow it down to two books, it would be these two books, right? I can't even say that. But this book talks about, yeah. You need all these books. And then this book is where you get a little bit into the chemistry. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, neurochemistry, biochemistry associated, right? Okay. So the prayer, you have memorization, right? So outside, because if you remove God from prayer, then you're not asking for stuff, right? Because a lot of times prayer is just pretty much asking for stuff. You're asking for stuff, right? But outside of that, outside of asking for stuff, right, is memorization, right? Outside of asking for stuff, right? It's mantra based. Right? Like if you have a rosary, right? You use your rosary. The rosary is based on right? So the rosary based on the number 9, right? The number 9 is significant for your memory. Another story. But you're talking about when you do the rosary, you're repeating over and over. You know, you're going through the miracles of Jesus or your Hail Marys or whatever the case may be. And then you also get to slip in something that you want, right? But again, you're conditioning your mind. Any type of information, that's why we went into reading that little piece in the book. Any experience, right? Any experience. Now, here's a thing that it's been around for a while. They talk about this for a long time, maybe since the 90s or the early 2000s. But you don't have to actually experience something in order to experience it, right? That's the beauty of a story. The beauty of a story, you can experience somebody else's experience. And the better they are at telling the story, right, the more colorful it is, the more detailed it is, the more real it is, right? Which is the reason why stories are repetitive. Stories are repeated because every time you repeat the story, every time it sinks deeper and deeper into your memory, it becomes a part of your physical brain and a part of your mind. It becomes a part of the way you see the world and how the world sees you. Right? So it is a system of conditioning, right? You know, and I'm gonna pull up with the Draco. Woo, that's conditioning, right? When we see the good guy, like when we see, okay, so for instance, let me give you another example, right? I'll give you an example of conditioning. In the 80s, right? In the 80s, TV shows start coming out with cops, like cop TV shows, right? Start coming out where you have a certain personality, right? And the cop in the show, in the TV show, the cop, every episode, right? He's the hero, but he has to break the law. He has to break the law as a cop, as a police officer. He has to break the law, right? So he gets in trouble and gets yelled at by his boss. So now you got two characters in the show, right? You got the boss that's always yelling at the same guy, right? The same cop, because he's always breaking the rules and, you know, city damage and casualties and woo woo woo. But at the end of the show, he always catches the bad guy, right? So this began to be pumped into our psyche, right? That police have to sometimes break the law in order to catch a criminal. Now, we didn't realize this was being pumped into our psyche, right? Fast forward, we have big blowups where cops are killing people in the process of upholding the law and blah, blah, blah. And we don't know where that came from. Well, chances are these guys grew up watching cop TV shows. They grew up watching TJ Hooker and Starsky and Hutch and 21 Jump Street and Whoop Whoop and Beverly Hills Cop. And yeah. And we don't realize that we love when the cop breaks the law and gets the bad guy. We cheer for it. We never want the cop to get in trouble that gets high and sells a little drugs and steals a little money on the side, as long as he catches the bad guy. Right up until in real life, that type of cop violates our auntie, violates our nephew, violates our cousin. Then we say, why isn't anybody? We got to stop this. We need to defund the police because, hold up. We just spent trillions of dollars at the box office for the last 30 years. Like, this is what we love. We love this. No, we love this. Eddie Murphy literally made a whole career on this. Beverly Hills Cop, 48 Hours. Like, we love this. We love the cop that breaks the rules, that becomes a criminal to catch criminals. Like, we love that. That's our favorite type of show. Yeah, we watch that all the time. Conditioning, right? Conditioning. We gotta watch the conditioning. We gotta watch the conditioning. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we absorb repetitively conditions our brain, conditions our responses, conditions how we behave. So most of us, we don't become cops. Yeah, so that doesn't become a real thing for us. But we have to realize that the folks that do become cops, they grew up watching the same movies. So they've learned just like we learned. Man, they got to break the rules. Yeah, they got to break the law. But then it becomes self-defeating because you're arresting somebody for breaking the law. And you're saying breaking the law is bad, but you're breaking the law in order to arrest this person. Like we just watched this with the YSL case. That's why everybody is not guilty. Because we watched the state over and over break the law. It was a dirty case. They went through like 3 or 4 judges because even one of the judges was dirty. Judge Glanville, one of the dirtiest judges we've ever had the privilege to see. But I say privilege because we don't know how many cases been dirty like this. This is status quo. This is how they normally operate. The thing is, social media and cameras haven't been everywhere before. So we haven't been inside courtrooms before. You know how many people was in prison saying, yo, they railroaded me. They did this and that. Yeah, but you didn't have 1 million people tuned into every episode, every court date. So you didn't get to get justice, whereas the whole world was watching this. Like, wait a minute, is the judge sentencing the lawyer to go to jail with the criminal? Like, what is this? Wait, what just happened? Like, it was crazy. Did the judge threaten a witness to testify? Like, what is going on right now? You know what I'm saying? So, because we got to observe the case, wakey, prayer manual number 1, the observer effect, because we got to observe the case, we changed the outcome. Because we were watching, because we were observing, we changed the outcome. Right? So, observance, right? Observance requires focus. Observance requires focus, right? So this is where you have, this is where neurochemistry come into play, right? Serotonin versus dopamine. On the surface level, it may look like serotonin and dopamine do similar stuff in your brain, but they don't. They don't. The way we teach it, we teach serotonin and dopamine like a camera. That's the easiest way to understand it. So, which book is it in? I don't know. It's in one of these books. It might be in the Go book. It might be in the Go book. Everything's in the Go book. I think it is in this book. Hold on, I just seen something. Mm-hmm. don't know, it's in one of these books, right? But we talk about it, we teach it as a camera. That's the easiest way to learn it and understand it. Oh, you know what? I think it's in this book. I think it's in this book for sure. It's definitely in the movement book. No, it's in this book for sure. Okay. Yeah, it's in this book for sure. But we teach the serotonin and dopamine like a camera, right? So in the camera, you get to zoom in to stuff and you get to zoom out, right? You get to zoom in and zoom out, right? And that's why I tell you, light, sound, time and space, and movement is all in here, right? So, two things make time slow down. Dopamine and adrenaline. Either or both together, right? Controls your experience of time, right? So the dopamine get the flowing, the adrenaline get the flowing, time slows down. Why? Because now you're in the zone. So this is the talks I be having whenever I get an athlete. I got to teach them how to maximize getting in the zone, right? They get in the zone. Yo, I was in the zone. The shots were just falling. Yeah, because you was all the way dialed in, right? Neurochemically, that's dopamine, that's adrenaline, right? And that's from your survival mechanism. The adrenaline part is anyway, right? You need to learn what's happening, right? So that it doesn't happen again, right? Act or ignore the experience you're going to store away. It's going to become part of your algorithm. Anything that's life-threatening, you need to learn as much of that as possible. You need all the details, right? So time slows down. So you can remember everything, every little facet, every little detail, how it smelled, what you heard in the background, all of that. You need all that, right? Serotonin, on the flip side, when things happen and time is flying, man, it's 3 o'clock already. Woo, let's get out of here. Serotonin. Time is flying. Right? You are focused out. Right? Your focus is all the way dialed back. Right? You just went through the day. You didn't focus in on anything in particular. So time went by quickly. The more you focus, the more time slows down. The less you focus, the more time speeds up. You could control that by controlling your neurochemistry. So, of course, in the books, we have the ways to do that too. Right? We got the information, and then we have how to utilize and do that. We got the how-tos. Say, EnQi, that sounds good, but how do we do it? You go to Amazon and get the book. That's the how-to part. You get that part in the book. You don't get that for watching the free YouTube. You ain't even hit the Cash App. You want to know how to do everything. You ain't even hitting the Cash App. What about me? So focus becomes a matter of neurochemistry, right? Focus becomes a matter of neurochemistry, right? They say, Doc, you the GOAT when it comes to this. Bro, this is crazy. There's levels to this. No. Well, yeah, I am. But it's focus, observance, right? Repeating, right? Building your muscles is the same. You have to repeat an exercise, right? You have to repeat an exercise to build the muscle, right? So with our system of prayer, what we're doing is we're taking it to another level, right? Because we live in North America. Most of the people that follow me are in North America. I got people everywhere, but most of the people is in North America. Most of the people is in Europe, right? That's where the bulk of the people at. America, Europe. We got some folks at the equator. I mean, we got some folks in Australia, but for the most part, we're in cold climate, moderate climate, right? So we need more voltage. These are the things that went into developing our system of prayer. You say, what do you mean our system of prayer? We have our own system of prayer, right? Voltage, memorization, selective memorization, right? We talk about in this book, the autism book, and the Speaking into Existence book specifically. In these two books, we talk about the neurochemistry associated with addiction and how we're hardwired for that, right? We're hardwired for addiction. So addiction is not something you can escape. So people trying to break addictions mostly have trouble breaking addictions because they're trying to go back to a zero. But a zero doesn't exist. The easiest way you break an addiction is you simply replace it. You put something in its place. So because your brain is hardwired that way, because your brain is also hardwired genetically for a relationship with your creator, something has to be put in that place. Something has to stimulate that neurochemistry. If you're not studying God, if you're not building a relationship with God, if you're not learning about God, you still have to replace that space of mystical, magical, divine something. So a lot of people replace that because those same brain centers are hardwired for opioids and music. Well, guess what? When you're having certain types of conversations, the conversation alone stimulates opioids and dopamine. If you're watching me, these types of conversations are stimulating opioids and dopamine in your brain right now. Like, yo, this is crazy. I got to go get this book. And when I say about the books, you go into your library too. Like, hold up, I got that book right here, ain't? Yeah, I got that right here. Yeah. You are a sapiosexual. The mind turns you on, gets your juices flowing, right? Which is what most people are. It's just we are in a dumb universe right now. So it seems like we're the unicorns, but we're actually the normal people. Everyone else, like people that watch a car explode and they like that, or they on the internet and somebody's riding on their motorcycle and they die, crash in a motorcycle accident or break their neck or something, and they see that and they clip that and post that on their page and then share that with a bunch of people. That is insanity. That is mental illness. But mental illness is widespread now. Most people have different forms of mental illnesses. People are just juggling different mental illnesses. Yeah. Why, that man just broke his neck and died. Why would you send that to me? Why would you send that to me? I had to block loved ones off my phone. I have to block them. People I love, I have to block them because the things that they think is cool or funny or cute, I don't think so. And they can't help themselves. Yo, look at this. somebody in Nicaragua got their head cut off, or some terrorists, they cut the kid head off. Look at this. Let me show you. What? I don't want to see that. I'm not putting that into I'm not putting that into my mind. Are you insane? No. No. Do not put that in your mind. Do not repetitively consume that so it goes in your DNA. Then you have kids that do some old wild, violent, crazy thing, and you're like, how did that happen? Oh my God. How did Timmy shoot up the school? What? Oh my God. What? Where did he get that from? What do you mean? He got that from you. Yeah. You was probably consuming all kinds of craziness. Yeah, you was watching all them gory movies where they stab the person and cut them up and do this and that. Man, I got to go see me a scary movie. There's a difference between a psychologically a thriller and just a gory movie, right? There's a difference between something that's shocking and scary and thrilling versus something that's gory, right? If you're watching a bunch of gory movies, I got to watch out for you. I got to watch out for you because you have an appetite for a particular type of violence. You have an appetite for a particular type of violence. And anything that you like to see done to people, right? Do unto others as you would have them. Anything that you like to see over and over, it's not going to be long before you want to participate, right? That's why we're seeing so much sexual deviance, because the porno business changed. And it only took 10 years for, once the porno industry changed, for that to reflect in society. Back in the days, pornos was long and drawn out. You would have like a lady outside, watering her grass or something. Then a guy, the mailman, walk up. And he's like, oh, honey, drop off your mail. That's a nice skirt you got on. And they exchange a little back and forth. And before you know it, they in the house doing something crazy. They doing their thing. But it's regular sex. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he hitting it from the back or, whatever. But it's just not too, it's regular, right? Within reason. It's regular, right? And that was the entire porn industry. So that was reflected in society. Fast forward, they start choking and spitting on women, right? And then the women spitting back on him. And now he got to, and they doing gang rapes in the porno. It's regular porno. It's gang rape. 7-on-1, 40-on-1. Okay, well, just like the cop thing, we excused it. We loved it. They're not making these things, selling them to nobody. These things they selling this like crazy. So everybody's consuming it. It's only a certain amount of time of you consuming it before you want to do it. Because what you're consuming is shaping your brain. How you're shaping your brain is going to shape your appetites. Because when you're watching it, it's the same as you doing it. That's why you can masturbate, right? Because you're watching sex, so you're feeling sexual. Yeah. So it's only a certain amount of time before you keep watching it that you now want to do it. That's the purpose of religion and spirituality. You're going to keep repeating these scenes over and over and over with a high moral standard. Repeating it. So now, when you're faced with a situation, you're going to act with a high moral standard. Your compass is set. This is setting your compass. This is setting your appetite. Oh, I want to be the person that's able to do. Yeah, I want to be the person that does. I want to share like this. I want to teach like this. I want to sacrifice like this. Versus, I can't wait to get in a situation. You crazy? Look at all that money. I would have stole that. You crazy? I wouldn't have gave that back. I would have stole that. Man, when he killed the girl, he should have hid the evidence like this. I would have hid the evidence like this. He should have did this. If he would have killed everybody instead of just killing her, he could have got away with. We literally watch the movies and this is what we say. Now, I'm telling you, if he would have just killed all the witnesses, he would have been straight because all he had to do was kill everybody. And you start having conversations like that, like all he had to do was kill everybody. Like, wait a minute, did you hear what you just said? That's it. All he had to do was just kill everybody. Yeah. It happens over time. So prayer, one part of it is voltage, right? How charged we can charge the body, right? How much we charge the body, right? How much we can charge the body is important because how much we charge the body impacts how powerful the prayer is, right? So prayer is shaping the brain, right? And remember, we're only explaining outside of God. We didn't put God in, right? So we're not transmitting, we're not sending, receiving. We're just talking about how prayer affects us internally, right? So voltage, right? That's how we power it up, right? And people pays for this type of information. You get less information in a $100,000 event in personal empowerment. I got a question. Anybody knows how mitochondria? Oh, okay. So nobody knows how actual personal empowerment, because power is voltage. Yeah, but we're positive thinking. Ah, got it. Okay. So we're going to throw positive thinking. But you know why I didn't throw positive thinking over here? Because a lot of what we memorize is not positive thinking, right? So when we have the ability to choose our prayers, put them together, right? Choose the things that we repeat repetitively, right? Choose how we're writing stuff into our DNA. We're writing it into our DNA. That's the most powerful thing of all time. Like we can, you know how long your DNA might be here? Your DNA might be here on this planet replicating itself for another 10,000 or 100,000 or a million years. You can put the message in the bottle with prayer, right? So the memorization part, the mantra part, the observance part. So we went through that kind of a little bit yesterday, reiterating some of that stuff today. Now, the charging up part, right? We want to put that over here, right? Because that's the other part. So what we've done is we've added our exercise to the prayer. What time is it? It's almost time for me to pray again. So we've added the exercise. Right? We've added exercise. Exercise. Wow. Right? We've added exercise into the prayer, right? For the voltage, right? Because we want to be able to control right? Because this is how your body generates electricity, right? So we have a 2.5 minute exercise routine. So that's how earlier I was out of breath. And I was like, hold on, let me run through this prayer real quick. And then came back on and I was out of breath, right? Because the idea is you're going to start off with 30 seconds of toe raises, right? That's where you raise your toes off the ground. Very simple. 30 seconds, right? But you're trying to do it as fast as you can, right? Right? Then 30 seconds of heel raises, right? Or calf raises, right? Then 30 seconds of squats, right? 30 seconds of squats. Then from there, you're going to do 30 seconds of jumping jacks and 30 seconds of push-ups, right? That is going to get all of your skeletal muscles, all of the muscles in your chest and your back, all of those muscles to start depolarizing and repolarizing, producing electricity, right? So you can add voltage and power to your prayer. Now, why is that important? That's important because all of our prayer systems come from the equator. All of our prayer systems come from the equator. All of our prayer systems come with a dress code. If you notice, they'd be like, how come, the priests and the holy people, it always seems like they have on linen or they have on a certain type of material, right? Material is everything because different types of material controls what type of energy is allowed to get to your body or not. So some types of clothes, mostly the synthetic ones, it blocks, right? Natural stuff, like you wear linen, I keep saying linen, it lets the wind through, it lets the light through, it charges up, right? So light in and of itself, heat, infrared, light, sunlight and infrared. Infrared is a part of sunlight, but I'm just specifying because infrared is heat. So even if you're somewhere and it's dark out, but it's hot, it's still lots of infrared, still lots of negative ions, right? You have depolarizing and repolarizing. So your prayers have a certain level of voltage in that situation, right? When we're in cold spaces or we're in spaces that are synthetically heated, because we got the heater running or the what is that, the central heat from the house or whatever the case may be, or you at the office and your office building got central heat or whatever, right? That's not the same because light causes your pigment system, your opsins and your melanins to start depolarizing and repolarizing, producing electricity, right? So that's one part of voltage, right? Electricity, right? We got that. Then the other part is blood flow. Remember last night I asked how much blood is your spine, the jet pillar, producing, right? So this is the other part to electricity, right? The blood flow is carrying oxygen. Oxygen in and of itself carries light and electricity. So when the blood gets oxygenated, it's charging up, right? It's charging up. So when you're stimulating the spine, right, you're producing more blood. When you're sluggish and you're not moving around, your blood is not really flowing. You're concentrating on the heart to do all the work, right? But when you use your skeletal muscles as pumps, you create more blood flow. So that's why we start with the feet, right? Your feet have a bunch of muscles in them. So you do the toe raises and then the heel raises, or heel raises, then toe raises, doesn't matter. You work all of the muscles in your feet. So you start the feet muscles to pumping blood. So the feet muscles is like that. All your muscles like accordions. How the accordion bring the air in, and when you go in and out with it like this, your muscles go like that. But only blood is going in and out like that. Right? So now you do that with the feet. Then you do that with your lower legs. Right? Now we doing your quads, your hamstrings, and your glutes. We bringing the squats in. Right? And now we move up to the upper body. Right? With the push-ups. Right? So now we got the arms, the chest, and the back, right? And now we jumping. Once we add the jumping to it, we bring in what? Right? When we add the jumping to it, we bring in more dynamics. When we add the jumping jacks, we bring in the skeleton, right? For piezoelectric stimulation of the skeleton, right? And then we also bring in the lymph. We get the lymphatic system to moving. So now we add in all of the various aspects of light, electricity, and magnetism to power up the prayer, right? And so it increases the strength and the power of the visualization and of whatever it is you're trying to bring into fruition, because we thankful as thankful can be, right? We going through thanking the Most High for this and that and the other, right? Or you could use your own prayers. Like I said, you don't have to use my prayers. You could use your own prayers, but you doing your prayer. Most prayers, you're thanking God and whoever, right? But then you get your part. You get to ask for something. Hey, so God, while you at it, I need this rent. I need this relationship. I need this money. I need this. I need you to protect my babies. I need you to protect my wife, my husband, my this, my that. I need favor. Right? You charge that up, which was a part of the reason why dance was so important, because dance, you get to charging it up, but that's a different environment. Again, that's the equator. Folks at the equator getting constant UV, constant high energy radiation. Constant high energy radiation. We're devoid of. So our prayers are very low powered up here in the north. Yeah. Oh yeah, that the breath, come on now. The breath, everything, right? Everything, right? And so, you can do it. I suggest 5 times a day. Right? I suggest 5 times a day. Right? But you don't have to do it 5 times a day. And you don't have to do it the whole thing every time. Right? Because sometimes we might be somewhere where we can't bust out the whole program. You know what I'm saying? But you could say it to yourself. You could say it, or you could listen to it. Right? You could say it or listen to it, so you still get the rep in. And what happens is, when you actually go through it once, twice, 2, 3 times a day, as time goes on, the repetition builds up. And when you somewhere where you can't do the work to it, just listening to it is going to bring all of that back. You're going to remember it, because it's going to become a part of your ritual. Right? It's going to be a part of your ritual. Right? And then pretty soon, you'd be surprised how fast you're learning the information as well. Think about where we would be as a people. Think about all these people running around that have the Bible memorized. No, think about these folks that's running around with the Bible memorized. I'd be wanting to take the Bible and knock the I'd be ready to take the Bible and hit him in the back of the head sometime. Think about how many people got the Bible memorized, right? And the only thing they're doing with that knowledge is weaponizing it, arguing with each other. Go to Romans chapter 1, verse 13. No, hold up, don't go there. Go to Galatians 7, chapter 2. No, I know how to counter that. Take us to go to John, go to 1 John, go to Exodus chapter 3, verse 40. I know what to do with that. Hold up. What if we actually memorized our body like that? What if you knew your body like that? What if you knew your body the same way you know that book? What if you knew your body the same way you know Lil Wayne's whole catalog of music? Think about that. You know all Jay-Z songs. What if you knew your anatomy like that? What if you spent that time that you was learning Jay-Z doing two things? Thanking God, right? Being thankful, being grateful, gratitude. And at the same time, demonstrating your gratitude because you're learning the vessel. See, there's no God that's going to be unhappy with you for taking care of the temple. Because we're forgetting this is supposed to be God's house. So the best thing you could do to please God is to make sure cleanliness is next to godliness. So you think God would be more impressed with you cleaning your house or his house? I'm just saying, it don't matter what God is yours. You think God would be more impressed with you cleaning your house or his house? You think God is going to be more impressed with you cleaning the bathroom or you having clean kidneys? You think God would be more impressed with you having a clean bedroom or a clean heart? Right? So it doesn't matter. It's not like it's not in alignment with Allah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Buddha, this one, that one. And if you should happen to have a God that you following, and your answer is no, then that means you got the wrong God. If your God is more happy with you having a clean living room than having a clean mind, you got the wrong religion. You probably into some Billy Crystal, Aleister Crowley program. We need to save you. You need love. You need prayer. I need to hug you. That's what you need. Yeah. If you're in a space where your religion say it's better to have a clean kitchen than a clean intestines. It's better to have a clean kitchen than a clean colon. We need to talk. That's not Jesus. That's not you. You got tricked somewhere. Somewhere you got tricked. Somewhere along the line, you got tricked. You're in Satanism. That's not God there. I don't know what that is. That's not that's not Judaism, Abrahamism. That's all of them. All of them teach you that this is God's house. This is God's house. All of them teach you about the heart. If you go into Buddhism, I studied Buddhism. The number one most studied aspect of Buddhism is the heart. Number one worldwide. They're focusing on the heart in Buddhism. That's literally what they're doing 24/7. So when you see on the internet and you're like, oh man, look at this guy. He can walk on nails or light himself on fire and blah, 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 blah. That's because they have spent 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years learning how to mentally control their heartbeat. How do you control your heartbeat? By controlling your breath rate. If you control the breath, you control the speed of your heart. If you control the speed of your heart, you control your emotions, your temperament, your pain threshold, all of those things, right? So there is no person that's going to pop up with some facts that's going to debunk what I'm telling you. It's not debunkable. Period. If you're in a situation where they think that it's better for you to focus on having a clean backyard and not a clean heart, a clean kitchen, a clean bathroom and not a clean heart, clean kidneys, clean liver, you're in the wrong place. That's not a godly place. We need to come on up out of there. We need to save you. Yeah, you need saving. For sure. You need to be saved. Right? There is no hell. There's no hell. Let me tell you something. That's not a Bible concept. The Bible does not teach hell. That's a concept that, who came up with that? St. Augustine. You could look it up. St. Augustine, somebody invented that as a way to control people. That's not a real concept. That's not a real thing. Hell is not a biblical concept. That's not a real thing. Right? That's not a real thing. That's somebody, St. Augustine, who thought he was slick. He thought he had a vibe. Right? Because they, again, messing around with the Kemetic stuff and don't know what they fully dealing with. Right? So when you look up hell, you'll get certain definitions. You'll get neither world or you'll get underworld. Both of those things come from Kemet. The neater world is the world of the neaters, the netters, right? That's a Kemetic concept. The underworld, that's the world of Osiris and Anpu, Anubis, right? That's the West. So there's no such thing in the Bible as hell. That's not a real thing. So you will be living in hell. You probably are living in hell right now. If you're in a religious group, that's a cult. Let me tell you something. That's a cult. Right there, you know the difference. If the focus is you need to clean up this place and not clean up this place, that's a cult. Certified fact. That's how you know if it's a cult. You can figure that out. Just one easy peasy, 1, 2, 3 easy. Yeah. Hardcore facts. All right, so we're gonna run through this. Now, the thing is, the reason why I'm putting it on it's on the Patreon, right? And we're going through it now, you know what I'm saying? But the reason why it's on the Patreon and the reason why we're going through it is because it becomes more potent once you memorize it. Once you don't have to read it out of the book or hear it, you know, from the video, when you have the prayer memorized. So it's important to memorize your favorite prayer. You just need to start with one, right? I'm going to help you memorize minds, right? But say, for instance, you don't want to use minds. You want to use whatever you got from church or from the masjid or whatever the case may be. You need to memorize it. You need to commit it to memory. You know what I'm saying? That was my favorite part. When I was into Islam, that was my favorite part, was the prayer. And you have to memorize it immediately. You're not even official until you have it memorized, period. You got to know the words. You know what I'm saying? You got to know the words. Right? You got to know the words. So you could pray anywhere. That's what the prayer rug is. The prayer rug is an oblong square. It's an oblong square, right? Islam is more infused with Freemasonry than anything else. Because Islam is not even Arabic. It's Syriac. And there's a Syriac guy who wrote most of the stories in the Quran, unfortunately. You know, the people that's Muslims, they be like, yo, you be hating on the Muslims. I don't be hating on the Muslims. The Muslims be hating on us. Remember, they ate all of the Egyptians. They blew a hole in the side of the pyramid and they ate the Egyptians, and they started sugar slavery. So, yeah, forgive, but don't forget. Those are three of the most largest atrocities that quote unquote Black people have dealt with on earth. And we attribute those all to white people. We attribute those all to white people. Culture vulture. They stole our intellectual property. The Greeks wouldn't dare do that. The Greeks wouldn't dare do that. The Greeks was in love with Kemet. Yeah, they was in love with Kemet. They was in love with the Kemetic gods, the sciences, the outfits, the clothes, the whole program. They were stalkers. They would never change the program. They would never violate the temples. I mean, obviously they put in their name and stuff, whatever, but they was trying to be like, Even the Romans, they were scared of it. It was different. The Greeks was in love with Kemet. The Romans were scared of Kemet. So the Romans would either leave it alone or they would burn it down to the ground. But they was not getting ready to violate it. And you would say, well, is it burning it down to the ground violating? Yes and no. In their mind, they're getting rid of it because they're scared of it. So they're either going to get rid of it and obliterate it, like till it's no more, or they're going to leave it the way it is. They're not going to touch it. That wasn't the Arabs. The Arabs came in and blew a hole in the side of the pyramid. All of the Arabic wealth, these rich Arab families, all of their money comes from stolen Kemetic everything. Just real history. No, it didn't. It came from oil. No, it didn't. Because these folks was rich long before oil. Oil money just started in the 1800s. We didn't have cars and trucks and planes and all that long. So there's no oil money that was selling in the 1500s, in the 1000, in the classical Islamic era between 600 and 800, 900. Yeah. They was getting their money from raping Egypt. That's where they got their money from. All the gold, stole it. All the papyri, stole it. The mummies, they ate them. And what they weren't eating, they were selling to Europe so the European people could eat them as medicine. Medicinal cannibalism. Yeah. So we say the white folks stole our intellectual property. The white folks put us into slavery and the sugar plantation. No. The white folks did do that, but they learned that from the Muslims first. The Muslims was their teachers. And before they taught them math and algebra, they taught them how to enslave Black folks to make sugar. Yeah. So it's just is what it is. The sugar thing is a thing for Haitians. As a Haitian, that's a part of our heritage because there's no Haitian revolution without sugar. Sugar was the beef. The beef of the Haitian revolution was sugar. That was the whole beef. Yeah. That's how the whole thing jumped off. You know, the Arabs had it, the Muslims, then the Italians got it from them, you know, the church power, the Romans, right? The Italians is the Romans. I don't know, somehow we separate that in our mind, but the Italians are the Romans, right? That is them. But we separate them because we love the Italians and we hate the Romans. So somehow we have cognitive dissonance. In our minds, we've separated the Italians from the Romans because we keep watching all these mobster movies. So we done fell in love with the Italians. We're forgetting that is the Romans. Those the colonizers. That's them people. When you say them people, when you say Illuminati, you're not talking about Freemasons. You're talking about them specifically. You're talking about Italians, the Romans. Yeah, that's them. So we fell in love with them through the movies. So now we mobsters. We gangsters eating pasta and all that. Yeah, we eat spaghetti, lasagna. We celebrate all our holidays with Italian food. Right? We talk and behave like Italian immigrants. Yeah, we talk and behave like Italian immigrants. Most of what we think is Black culture is immigrant behavior. It's not Black culture. Black culture is anatomy, science. This is Black culture here. Running around with the Draco and I'm going to pop your top and all. That's immigrant behavior. Yeah, we learned that from watching the movies, the mobsters. Oh, yeah. And then we learn what? Eating a whole bunch of pasta, a whole bunch of bread. Yeah, a whole bunch of bread and pasta. We got that from the movies. Our body's not designed for that. We're imitating people that come from a different place. That's why I've made the book, Eat Right for Your Haplotype, because we're not eating right for our haplotype. We come from the equator. Yeah, they're a little northern. Right? They actually immigrated down from where they from to colonize places along the equator. You're like, oh, no, they right there in the Mediterranean. They colonized into that place. They really from up further north, right? But they came all the way down and colonized and took over. That's why we even having this conversation, because they came across the water and just started going crazy in North Africa. Yeah. Facts. See, I know what book he in. Yeah, all that's all fake. Ain't no oil money. That's fake. That's money laundering. Listen, that's money laundering. That's what's actually going on, is money laundering. Right? So when you look up these papyruses, right, and they go, oh, this was discovered by such and such. Almost none of that stuff is really discovering by somebody. That's all plants in history to legalize, right? Because you can't, once you steal up stuff, you can't then come out and say, oh, yeah, well, look at this. You stole that. So you got to, oh, we discovered it. We was doing an archaeological dig and we found this, this, and this, and this. Usually they stole a bunch of stuff. And then the people that stole the stuff, they put a few dollars in the air and set up a dig. And then from that, they announced to the world, oh, we found these things. No, your granddaddy and them stole it. And now you want to put it out into the world so you get some value. So you put together a little show. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, you found it? Okay. You found it. Got it. What was you doing over there? You found it, my behind. You stole it. Oh, we was digging it up. Wait a minute. You was digging it up. So hold up. If I come to your house right now and go in your backyard, right? If I come to your house with my crew, me and a few other brothers, we come to your house and start digging up in the backyard, and we find some stuff in the ground, and we say, oh, yeah, we found this. We're going to sell this. We're going to donate it. Yeah, we found this. Oh. How you found that right there? That somebody buried that right there. No. You can't found that right there. That's a part of this whole temple complex. Yeah, no. Somebody owned this. This is somebody who built this. This whoever, the children of this is somebody. You can't just find you. No, you stole it one way or another. One way or another. You're plundering legally. You're plundering legally. You know what I'm saying? So no, with a lot of the gold, they had to melt the gold down and turn it into their own, so that's the beauty of gold. You can find somebody's gold stuff, and their stuff can only be identified if it's still in that same form. But if you melt it and remove the stones, like if there's any gemstones, you melt it down, make something new. Yeah. That's why you see a lot of jewelers is involved with the streets. Yeah. Where you think all the stolen jewelry goes? How you think big pieces of stolen jewelry that people have insured, how do you think it disappears? How do you think it disappears? Yeah. If you steal somebody's chain, the chain says their name and their neighborhood. Like the chain is out there. They got like 100 videos on Instagram with the chain on. How you can't steal that? Where you going with that? Right? Everybody tells nowadays. So forget about, yo, I ain't telling them. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm just trolling, letting them know I stole it, whatever. I caught that body. I put that work in. No. You're going to jail. The way people get away with that, you take it to the jeweler. The jeweler just melt it down and repurpose it, redesign it. Take the stones out, pop, 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 pop. Melt that down, make another piece of jewelry. And all you got to do is pay the jeweler for the work because you're already coming with the gold and the stones. Yeah, that's what they did to your ancestor stuff. Easy peasy, 1, 2, 3, easy. Presto changeo. But now we got all this gold. Man, we got to tell folks we got this from somewhere. Oh, oil. Yeah, we got this oil money. Yeah, no. This ain't oil money. What are you talking about? Y'all from the desert. Y'all Bedouin tribes. When y'all got money? Oh, back in the days, Allah. Don't you say that. Don't you say Allah mysteriously made gold bricks pop up in your house. Yeah. Bruh. Yeah. And meanwhile, these goofy guys that's supposed to be dedicated to Kemet. Like, EnQi, you can't teach about Kemet because, stay in your lane. I'm like, wait, what? You don't see them folks that put KFCs and McDonald's and all that next to the pyramids. You ain't over there raising a fuss with them people about what they're doing with Kemet. You ain't folks digging up in the ground. They chipping off. Like, you ain't over there. They got folks that coming in, they sandblasting. Listen, they're sandblasting away the hieroglyphs. So hieroglyphs that been up for thousands of years are being sandblasted. You ain't over there in Kemet raising, because they're totally desecrating them. I mean, they sandblade, they removing hieroglyphs. Crazy. Oh, my alarm just went off. All right, people. Let's get busy with it. Get busy.
EnQi prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our cells into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.